Oh boy, we got a big one this week, don't we, guys? It's a big week in the world of Aggie football, given everything that we know, given everything that we want to see. Coming off the Notre Dame loss, which feels a little bit worse right now. Coming off of the game that we did what we were supposed to do versus McNeese, we got a big one this week. Game that's going to tell us exactly where A&M is going coming out of that Notre Dame Week 1 loss. Is Connor going to return to form and stay in form? Is this run defense going to stiffen up? Are we going to record a sack? Haven't had a sack on the year yet that got recorded. I'd argue that there might have been a sack versus Notre Dame, but it didn't get recorded in the stat sheet. Is the secondary truly a strength of this team? I think Florida's going to test it in different ways we haven't seen yet. I don't think Notre Dame and obviously McNeese were really teams to stretch us out and try to pass downfield on us. Florida might try to do that. Is the O-line going to keep up? They've been playing really, really well, and they might just be the strength of this offense. But once you start playing against SEC bodies and bigger people, faster people, are they going to keep it up? They did pretty well versus Notre Dame. Can they do that on the road at the Swamp? The opening SEC opponent serves as a true litmus test for the team. This is a team that A&M absolutely can beat and can handle. So if we don't see what we want to see versus Florida, some of the games that we kind of viewed as manageable going into the year, South Carolina, Arkansas, Auburn, they all feel a lot different if A&M goes out and struggles versus Florida, especially if they lose. But even if they struggle and win, things aren't feeling so great because you know you have some tough home games this year, but those road games were kind of, manageable but still losable. You can't beat Florida. You can't perform versus Florida. What does that say about the rest of the year? So this week's going to be full of anxiety for me. I remember sitting in Kyle Field. I got to the game like an hour early for Notre Dame, and I felt like I was going to throw up, and I'm not even playing. It's just we're going to learn so much about the team, and we learned a lot versus Notre Dame. We learned that this offense is going to be a work in progress, getting Connor back, picking up this new offense, receivers getting open. We found that all out. And now we're going to go through that all again versus Florida because this is going to tell us where we are now. How do we follow up, and where are we going for the year? So today I want to talk about some of the areas of concern on the team. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what you guys have to say about some of maybe the weaknesses on the team, perceived weaknesses. That can all change after the Florida game, though, because that's when everything is kind of going to get stamped in, is how our performance is versus Florida. That's going to tell us where we actually are, because what are you going to learn from the McNeese game? Not everything, not anything, really. You can see how you respond and how you follow up and how cleanly you play. Felt pretty good there. But everything's going to be amplified once again versus Florida, like it was versus Notre Dame, but now with 2 weeks of tape and learning what you are under your belt. But I also wanted to check in on some other teams across the country. Now that we're entering SEC play, I wanted to go look at some of the teams, specifically teams on our schedule, and see how they have fared in their first 2 weeks of action so far this year. So in addition to some A&M talk, I want to get into some of our opponents and just kind of see how they're doing and see what to expect maybe in the coming weeks from some of those teams that I think are worth highlighting today. But guys, thank you so much for being here on a Monday night. Are you watching Monday Night Football on the side? Is this your second screen? I have a feeling some of you guys are watching that. I have Breece Hall tonight on my fantasy team. I am down 20 points. I need a big Breece Hall night tonight. I also have the kicker, so I'm feeling like it's very possible that I win tonight. I'm glad you guys are with me. If you guys could like and subscribe, that would help me greatly. Let's say what's up to everybody in the chat. See a bunch of familiar faces in here. What's up, Jeb? Just had some Panda Boys. I'm ready for this shit. Yeah, dude. Guess what I had for lunch today? I had Panda Express, Jeb. No shame. I do Panda every week. It just happens. It's just how it is. Chris Cobb in the building. Time to rock, Drew. Best show in college by far. Thank you, man. I don't think I'm the best, but if you think I'm the best, that feels pretty good. I really appreciate that, Chris. Rolly Mirabel in here. Good to see you, man. Ben Capatillo. Howdy, Ags. This week is going to be interesting. We really need to prepare and attack on Saturday. I know all the preparation comes down to this. And sounds like, they had a good first practice today. So let's see, man. The most important week of practice yet is this week. So hopefully they're locked in. I am still confident in Elko and this coaching staff, obviously. One thing I said in the offseason is that I don't expect a lot of letdowns, like road games you're supposed to win where your team just doesn't show up. That's not something I'm expecting. Now, it's possible that deficiencies on the team are what can hold you back, but I really don't foresee just a pooper of a game. You know what I mean? I don't expect that from Elko. So I think they're going to show up. I think they're going to prepare well and give it their best shot. But hopefully some of these weaknesses that we see on the team don't come and bite us in the butt and are the reason we struggle or lose. But, yep, really, really important week of preparation, Ben. Absolutely. Chris Cobb says, what's happening, Drew? Time to get back in the top 25 by beating Florida. That'd be great, but I don't even care about rankings. Just beat Florida. Win your freaking games, man. Win your freaking games. Matt Myers says, Texas Natty incoming. Already hanging the banner? You beat Michigan. Good job, but you're hanging the banner already, Matt? Come on now. Give it some time. Now, I know your schedule's kind of looking a little easier with OU not playing so well versus Houston. You still got Georgia. You still got to come to College Station. You still got an SEC schedule to get through. Things are looking really good for Texas right now. I'll admit it. I'm going to call it how it is. They look good. It's kind of crazy you're already declaring that, but I get it. You're talking trash on an A&M channel. Good for you, man. Good for you. I hope you enjoyed the game. John Peroni in the house. Good to see you. Alex Flo. Good to see you, man. Robert Gonzalez says, beat the hell out of Florida. Absolutely. Love the show. Gets me through the week to the next game. I appreciate that, man. It helps me too. I mean, I'm here thinking about football every day, all day. I'm a little bit obsessed. So I figure why the hell not make a show and share it and have a place for us to come together and talk about it. So thanks for saying that, Robert. Thanks for being in here, man. Jeb says, this game definitely makes me nervous but optimistic. Yeah. Same. I think I'm optimistic. I think I am, based on what we've seen from Florida and, what we could be. But I'll definitely be very nervous for this one. I'll be live. So if you guys want to watch the game with me and a bunch of other Aggies, tune into this channel Saturday. I'm thinking about going live at 11 so we can watch LSU South Carolina together. That's the game on before our game, so that could be a lot of fun. Chris says we should have no problems with Florida. I hope so. Ben says, Jeb, this game makes me nervous as well. John says this is a must-win on Saturday. It is a must-win, I think, after losing to Notre Dame. Jeb says Auburn offensively looks bad. We don't want to go 1-2. Yeah, Auburn offensively looks really bad. I'm going to talk about them. They're one of the teams we're going to highlight today for sure. I'm not going to highlight every team on the schedule, but I'm going to highlight a few that I feel like highlighting that I think are worth it. Kingo Lamar 354 says analytics has us at a 7-win season now. What do you think about that? I think based on what we've shown versus our opponents, versus Notre Dame, who lost to Northern Illinois, I think analytics probably hate us right now, and I totally understand. And that's why this Florida game is important, because this is the next step coming out of that. So, yeah, analytics with 7 wins sounds about right. But we expect and think there is more in the tank for this team to show this weekend versus Florida. But thanks for bringing it up. That's sounds about right. This is very much a pressure game for Florida. The pressure is on. The pressure is absolutely on. Who's playing tonight? It is the Jets versus another team who I don't even know. Sheris says, Gig'em Drew, thanks for being here, man. Adam H. just sat down and steak and shake. Enjoy. The weather was amazing this morning. It's fall right now, and I think it's because of the hurricane in the Gulf right now. It feels so good. It might get hotter again before it stays kind of fall-y, but enjoy it. It's a preview. Jeb says Connor will have to have a great game for us to win. Yeah, he will. He needs to play. He needs to at least play well. I'm about to talk about it, so yes. What's our record for away wins again? I swear under Jimbo we couldn't get it done. I'm definitely optimistic for the Saturday. I don't know our record, but I know we haven't won one since 2021 Missouri, the game after the Bama upset where we won at home. That next week we went and won versus Missouri before they were good, and that's the last time we went on the road. So we got to get that right for sure. Connor still worries me. I hope he gets out of his funk. Yeah, he wasn't perfect versus McNeese. He got some rhythm. We'll talk about it in just a second. Kit Kat says, I feel like this Florida game determines if we are a 9-3 team or a 7-5 team. So here's the thing. I think largely yes, based on the numbers. I still think you can improve after Florida, given that this is still a first month under Elko. But at that point, you already have 2 losses. And if you're losing to Florida and looking bad against Notre Dame, probably have a couple more losses in there. Even if you do improve over the course of the year, you probably still can get some big wins down the road. But yeah, very much on the table to go 7-5 at that point. Oh man, Lash. I can tell Lash is battle scarred here. Ags going 4-8 while TU wins the Natty. Lash moves back to Illinois. Some of our older Ags are a little battle scarred and they're going through it. Let's just see how Florida goes, Lash. I know you're pretty antsy about this, but just give it a couple more weeks. We're still only 2 weeks into a new coaching tenure. I'm going to an Aggie bar in Austin to watch the game. In Austin, Aggie bar? That sounds fun. Enjoy it, Jeb. Jets and 49ers tonight. Nice. Kingo, I'm just going to call you Kingo. Kingo says, I'm worried about getting gashed on the ground by Florida. Do you think we can clean up given the big runs? I think we can. I'll talk about that a little bit in a second. 10 road losses since Missouri, 9 SEC, and the Miami game. Yep. Hans says, I thought Figgy's footwork looked rough at first, but he got comfortable. That's still a bit of a concern if Florida gets pressure. Yep. Good thing is the O-line has been good so far. So, before we get into the calls, and by the way, we have open phone lines right now. The call-in link is pinned in the chat. Just click it. It's really easy to use. I'm going to bring up some perceived weaknesses on the team right now, some talking points, the major talking points about the team that may come back to bite us in the butt as soon as the Florida game. I'm going to highlight those. Then I'm going to go through some SEC teams and where they're trending right now. But I want to hear from you guys. Anybody wants to chime in on how you feel about this team, where we are right now going into SEC play? Open phone lines. Get in. We can talk about whatever you want, but I'm highlighting some weaknesses on the team right now. And maybe we'll touch on some strengths, but I think the weaknesses are of paramount importance going into this Florida game. So, team trends. Specifically weaknesses, run defense, first and foremost. It was, I think, like 198 versus Notre Dame, and then 180 versus McNeese. So I want to hear you guys' opinion on it. Elko said straight up today, and I quote, "It's been terrible," end quote, after giving up almost 200 yards in each game. It's an aspect of the team. Is it an aspect of the team that is without hope? Do you think we're doomed just to be a bad run defense? I mean, 180 to McNeese doesn't look very good on paper. Now, if you watched my last video, you know that I have not given up hope. Yes, I don't think this is going to be a team whose strength is run stopping, given that you lost McKinley Jackson, who was an interior clogger, a run game impactor, a guy that just crushed running lanes, and of course, Edgerrin Cooper, a second-round talent at linebacker. But I don't think it has to be as bad as it's been through 2 games. First of all, and I'm going to excuse, this is an excuse here, but I'm trying to contextualize and give reasons for, how it could go the positive way. Notre Dame's a team that's better running than passing. McNeese, it's McNeese, so whatever. But McNeese is a run team. They had a much higher run to pass ratio in favor of running over their first 3 games of the season so far. They played in week 0. And they're a team that runs the ball. And versus McNeese, while you had the starters out, you did hold them to around 50 yards rushing. It's not too bad. I mean, come on. You give 100 yards to McNeese rushing, and they're having no success passing the ball, really. I think that feels pretty good. But I will say, interior run defense, defensive tackle impact has left a little bit of room to be desired. Even in that McNeese game, they had a little bit of success impacting and getting positive yardage on first downs. I want to see that get cleaned up. Excuse me. But I do think Albert Regis and Shamar Turner had some good stuff versus McNeese. Albert Regis was the defensive line player of the week, according to the coaches. I think he's doing well in the realm of kind of occupying double teams, holding his ground, and not letting their offensive line develop. I think he's getting better. I think he's going to get more comfortable in this. Obviously, he's in a critical role now because I still think DJ Hicks has a long way to go to be like a down-to-down guy for A&M. Regis is playing a major role right now, and he's stepping up. A lot's being asked of him, and I do think there's room for improvement there, and Shamar Turner as well. We've seen better from him than we saw versus Notre Dame. I think he had some really good moments versus McNeese, and this next game is a huge test for those 2 guys. But more importantly, I think this run defense has really suffered by way of gashing run plays. Versus Notre Dame, it was that Jadarian Price 46-yard touchdown run that really put this run defense in the negative category in that game. And that came by way of a bad angle and not wrapping up by Torian York. And we expect better from Torian. We think we'll get better from Torian. I think Torian only played like 15 snaps last game. He was solid in those 15 snaps. They had a big run in the first half against us, McNeese did. And that was a 26-yard run on the left side. And that was Solomon DeShields', I think, first snap of the season. And that was to Des Rick's side of the field. Des Ricks did not recognize the run, and he stayed on the receiver a little bit too long while the run play developed, and Solomon DeShields was late to his gap. So those are 2 players that, working through things, DeShields in his first snap of the year. And Des Ricks, I think he's shown some really, really good stuff in straight coverage, but some play recognition stuff and some angle stuff I think he's still working through. There are going to be some lumps with Des Ricks because this is still that was the second start of his college career because he didn't play for Bama. He was hurt in spring, and he's just getting into the flow of things. But I still feel really good about Des Ricks, and he's going to play a major role on this team. And, Solomon DeShields is apparently going through a big system change compared to what he was doing at Pitt. So there is a learning curve there, and he was only in the game really instead of Sanford at that moment because Scooby Williams rested versus McNeese to nurse a very minor injury that he will be back in Florida for. He's not going to be out of Florida. He just rested this game. And I just saying all of that to get to the fact that I think there is absolutely still hope for this run defense to at least not be terrible because it's been pretty bad through 2 games. But in the McNeese game, it was really the 3rd and 4th stringers, a lot of freshmen out there, a lot of younger guys out there that got ran on quite a bit in the second half. I don't look at that game as a marker for the negative run defense conversation. I look at the Notre Dame game for that. But again, that was a first game under a new staff, learning new ways, new terminology, new ideologies. Give it a couple more games. Really give it the Florida game. After that game, I'll be ready to tell you, oh yeah, man, we might be screwed in the run defense. That's why this game is so critical, because you can say that about a lot of different areas on the team. So look at that Florida game for the run defense. Look at the linebacker fits. Look at the interior D-line penetration and havoc. That's what I'm looking for, and I suggest you keep an eye on that too. If they clean it up versus Florida, I'll feel really good about the trend and progress there because, you have Bowling Green, looked pretty good last week. Then you have Arkansas, who, also probably a little bit better than expected, but still not great. 2 teams you feel like you can continue to get better against. So look at Florida to see where we are in that trajectory. Another concern on the team that a lot of people have brought up, and this actually isn't that big of a concern to me. 0 sacks recorded in the stat column for this team so far, and that's after a lot of hype for a D-line, adding Nick Scorton, a bunch of, really big-time NFL potential players coming back in Shamar Stewart and Shamar Turner, but you haven't recorded a sack on the year, and I might be in the minority, but it doesn't really concern me. Would it be nice to have a sack for, vanity reasons and just pride reasons and bragging rights and, not giving trash talkers fuel for the fire? Yeah, of course, it'd be nice to have a sack. But I do think the D-line is impacting games in the pass rush department, and just their existence and being what they are is dictating what offenses are doing. If you watch my last video, you know that both teams A&M has faced this year have had insanely fast time to throw. And time to throw is basically how long the ball is in the quarterback's hand before it's released. On average, college quarterbacks have a 2.4 second time to throw. Both quarterbacks A&M has faced this year have had a sub 2 second time to throw, and that's insanely fast. That's like getting the ball out right away because they have to against this D-line, and that has to be their game plan against this D-line. Add that to the fact that Notre Dame is not a strong passing team. I think that was very clear versus Northern Illinois, to where I don't even know if Riley Leonard is their future there. That's how bad their passing game looks right now. So they obviously were scheming around this D-line. They were not able to drop back and rely on receivers to get open against what we think is a strength for A&M in secondary. So they are impacting the game, but they have not gotten to the quarterback yet. So, if you're forcing teams into specific non-advantageous game plans, quick plays, quick outs, and your defense is bottling that up and tackling well to combat that, I don't think it's a concern, guys. Now, if you get into some teams, maybe Florida, maybe Arkansas, maybe Missouri, that are more willing to drop back and let routes develop, and you're still not getting home and still not, collapsing the pocket and making a mess of things, that's when it becomes a concern. But versus these two opponents and what they're trying to do, I don't think it's that big of a deal, guys. And I still see a lot of winning matchups, a lot of winning their matchups on this D-line, one-on-ones, pass rush scenarios, a lot of pocket collapsing, a lot of just ugly pockets. That's still happening. For instance, versus McNeese, when the quarterback was unpressured, he threw for a 1.99 time to throw, and his completion percentage was 45%. But when he was pressured in the game, his pass completion was lower. Same with Riley Leonard. When he was pressured, his completion rate was 13%. So that's kind of how it's working right now. You're not playing teams that are willing to drop back and throw the ball downfield yet. It's just not teams that you're really pinning your ears back and able to sack, because that's not what these teams have done to us yet. They're impacting the game in that regard. Elko said it in the press conference today. It's not really a concern. But like I said, If you don't see it versus Florida and some of these other opponents, that's when it does become a concern. So keep an eye on it. Let's see how it develops. I still have full faith in this defensive pass rush. I really like Rylan Kennedy, guys. Cassius Howell, too. These are two guys that have really busted onto the scene, especially Rylan Kennedy, man. With all the names and high-profile players you have on this D-line, Rylan Kennedy is making a huge impact and making a name for himself here. It's really, really impressive stuff by Rylan Kennedy. He's going to get better over the course of the year, being that this is like, what, his third game in like real game action. He played in the bowl game. He played game 1 and 2. Yeah, sky's the limit for Rylan Kennedy right now, guys. He's been a standout for sure. All right, the last main concern, we're doing a trio of concerns here, is this passing game. And versus McNeese, I thought Connor and the receivers showed some good stuff, right? They connected on balls. Connor was 11 for 14. Very efficient day at the office, very quick day at the office. It wasn't perfect, though, and I still think Connor needs to settle into games and more consistently go through his progressions. I think he still missed some guys on his few incompletions, and, you know, it wasn't perfect, but it was much better than the first week. He was able to set his feet. He was able to throw the ball accurately. He did show some patience and some poise in the pocket, but with what we've seen from Connor before, there's still another level to that, and we need to see that versus Florida. Now, I don't know if we're going to get a perfect game from Connor versus Florida. I don't know if we need that from Connor versus Florida, but we need a clean and efficient game from Connor versus Florida. We need him to at least play winning football. And what that is taking care of the ball, being accurate, and further developing in his progression through his routes. Because, like I said, versus McNeese, the few bad plays where he held onto the ball or didn't see guys, I felt like he got some tunnel vision. I felt like he wasn't progressing through his progressions. And that wasn't every play, but it was there. Receivers, you know, I still think there are some errors as far as like schematics and playbook stuff amongst the receivers. On that goal line play where Connor had no one open, I don't know the play call. I don't know the route trees, but it felt like something was off because you had a lot of receivers in congested areas. I don't know what's going on there. You still had an alignment penalty this game. It was better than the Notre Dame game in that regard, but it was still there. Look for that to take a step forward. Obviously, Jabri Barber played this last game. He had 8 snaps, wasn't really involved in the game, but he played and he was out there. And Elko today said that he's on track to kind of being full go by the time we get to Arkansas. And then Moose Muhammad apparently had a good enough week of practice to see the field versus McNeese, and that's huge. I can't speculate. I don't know. I don't know what happens behind closed doors, but it sounds like Moose kind of fell short of some expectations leading into that Notre Dame game, leading to his total lack of play in the first half and limited play in the second half. So I think he might have screwed himself over that week. He might have made a mistake in practice or been late to something. I don't know. But apparently he cleaned that up the next week. And he got in the end zone, he had a couple big completions, and he looked pretty good versus McNeese. So if Moose can become a weapon again, I don't know about you guys, that makes me feel a little bit better. And then getting Jabri Barber back, and Terry Bussey got in the freaking end zone. And you're going to see more prevalent usage of him as the season goes on and he matures and he grows as a college player, and this offense becomes more of a comfort zone for a lot of players. So obviously, I'll say it again, Florida doesn't tell us where we're at, guys. That's why this game is so huge. But all right, guys, let's check in with the chat before we go around the country and start looking at some of our opponents and how they're trending on the year so far. Right now, we have open phone lines. We have Jackson waiting in the waiting room. Beyond that, open phone lines. Anybody wants to chime in on their kind of feel for the team right now and how they feel about maybe some of these weak spots, call in now. The call-in link is pinned in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. We have 45 viewers, only 13 likes. Can we get that to 25? That'd be really, really helpful for a show like this. Thank you guys for being here. Let's see what you guys are saying on all that stuff we were just talking about. Jeb says, we may be shaky right now, but I'm confident we will go 4-8, replying to what Lash said. I think Florida has better weapons than Notre Dame. Yes, absolutely better receivers than Notre Dame. Jeb says, I'll call tonight. Just let me know when the lines are free. Right now, it's open, but if you want to be the last guy, you might wait a second. Kingo says, also an article came out saying Florida is going to play both of their quarterbacks on Saturday. Do you agree that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none? Oh, that's tough. I think if you go into a year and you're like, okay, we're going split quarterback, that's our designation, that's what we're going to do, I think that can be a negative. But with what Florida's going through right now, they're kind of working through things. They don't have expectations on the year. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to get Lagway some experience and really try to find out which quarterback gives them their best path right now. So in Florida's case, no, because I don't think they don't have high aspirations on the year to begin with, and they're working through things. But I think that mantra is not extremely black and white, Kingo. I think it varies. But like if you're a team that's kind of clicking, you're like, well, we have 2 quarterbacks, we like them both, let's play them both. I think that can be a detriment. But You could also be a team like A&M with Connor Wigman. If they wanted to throw Jalen Henderson out there for some running plays, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm not talking like drives. I'm talking like select plays and scenarios. I don't think that's bad. So not so black and white. Chris Cobb says we're going 9-3 or 10-2. I love that. Jeb says, I like Regis, but I like him more as a rotational player. Look, let's see how he does, man. I think jury's still out on him. Maybe he develops into his own. I think the last few years he was serviceable as a rotational guy, but he's being asked to do a lot right now. And, you know, he was pretty solid versus McNeese. Let's continue to see how he does. Jackson says, should I call in today? I see you in there, man. You're my first caller tonight. I see Theo waiting in there, so we'll get you in here, Jackson. Let me get through some other stuff. Maybe we'll get into calls in about 10, 15 minutes. DVS says, Gators have a very good pass rush. I'm still waiting for Connor to throw 300-plus yards. I'm not going to get hung up on the total number. I just wanted to play clean and get us moving. You know, we have a really good run game. You're going to lean on it. I think it's very clear that this offensive line and the running back is the strength of this offense right now. I don't mind leaning on that. And if Connor gets 200 yards on an efficient, clean night with a couple red zone touchdowns, I'm good with that. Of course, vanity-wise, we want to see Connor like excel and be really freaking good. But if this offense calls for a strong running game and just a complimentary passing game, so be it. I'm okay with that. Just be solid and be accurate. Andrew Gregory says, this isn't the only problem, but I think York is a tad undersized and slow for big-time games. He was fine last year, but he was playing next to Cooper. Jury's out on that front, but I still think that there's a world where Torian can be effective with his size. And I think you have some good players to complement him next to him in Scooby and Sanford, who both bring tremendous athleticism and strength. Kingo says, I feel like we can step up the run defense. Our D-line is just way too talented. It doesn't make sense for it to be bad. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Jeb says, Ricks will get better over the season. DVS says, our guys need to get lasered in against Florida. This is a game that Aggies should handle. Yes, and even if you win ugly and sloppy, it still leaves a level of anxiety going into some of these other toss-up-y games like Arkansas and Auburn on the road, South Carolina especially, who we're going to talk about in just a second. Good to see you in here, Ted. I see you in the waiting room. Robert says, not that we will be playing backups on the O-line, but since TJ is the next man up, will we be ready to play in his absence? I heard he's suspended indefinitely right now. He was still on the depth chart. I don't know if that means he's not going to play this weekend. Let's see what happens. I think there's a world where TJ still plays a backup role this weekend, but if he doesn't, yeah, you're a little nervous there because you haven't had a guy that has played this year yet. And TJ's already played a lot in 2 games. He split reps with Fayu this last game versus McNeese, and he spelled a lot in Notre Dame when guys went down. So keep an eye on that for sure. It's a great point. DVS sees personally they need speed at receiver. Terry could be the answer, and Terry will become the answer. Terry will become the answer. Terry will get better and better over the course of the year, and he gains some confidence. What Terry's doing really well right now is just fielding punts cleanly, knock on wood. That's an underrated aspect for a player, just fielding punts, making good decision in the punt fielding world, letting things bounce, knowing when to call a fair catch, knowing when not to. For a true freshman, Terry has been nails in that department. Jeb says, I think Notre Dame doesn't have a passing attack either. Yeah, the Bowling Green game, just like I predicted, just became an interesting game now. Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I trust Elko to at least not let the team have lulls versus games, but your innate deficiencies could still slow you down in games. Ags are favored against Florida. I think they're 4-point favorites right now. Z Levine in here says, do you think the on-the-road plague was a function of Jimbo's prep or just Jimbo related? This 2-day prior to game sounds like it's frustrated the administration and possibly Elko back in the day. I think a lot of people didn't like the 2-day thing. I think there's just too much of a lull, too many layovers, too much doing nothing leading up to the game while you're on the road just waiting in your hotel room. I do think it's a negative, but A&M was in a lot of those road games, right? A&M had a chance to win that Tennessee game last year, a chance to win that Ole Miss game last year, a chance to win that LSU game last year, whatever the mantra was. I think just like kind of min-maxing and finding every little detail you can improve upon, like showing up to the road environment on Friday instead of Thursday, will help in this department. But I also just think a better team and a better prepared team helps too. And I think I'm hoping Elko is the guy to do that for sure. So it's hard to say whether that was the exact reason why they were struggling, but a lot of things led to that. But they were in the games, like I said. Jeb says, I didn't even know Barber played. Yeah, he had 8 snaps, and Donovan Green had 12 snaps. Neither got targeted, though. Wegman should attack instead of game managing, says DVS. Le'Veon should get the offense going. Yeah, I think so, but I think you still play to your strengths. But, I mean, obviously we would like to see Wegman get some nice play-action shots and some nice, get in attack mode versus Florida. I think that's on the table for sure. All right. We have, right now we have Lash in the waiting room, so anybody wants to get in after Lash, Lash is in there. I know some of you guys are talking to Lash in the chat right now, so you're going to hear from him. Terry will score another touchdown, says Chris. James says, I do think we see more variety out of the offense this week. Yes, look out for wrinkles this week because this is when they're going to start coming through. You kind of played your base offense with a couple wrinkles versus Notre Dame. very much your base offense versus McNeese. And now they're going to start changing things, whether it's on defense, offense. Look for things that are a little bit different, kind of off the cuff, kind of off beat versus Florida for sure. It might be a whole new ball game. You might see totally different things. O-line looks to be light years better. Credit to Adam Cushing, man. These are guys who've been coached by Adazio for 3 years now, and they just look different this year. They just look sound and strong and nastier. It's really, really been a breath of fresh air. Let's hope they keep building on it. And I think they will, because they did it against Notre Dame, who has a good defensive line. So, yeah, man, I think we're going to hang our hat on the O-line this year. It's starting to feel that way. Jeb says, from what I saw in the Miami game, Florida has no pass rush, but Miami probably has a really good O-line. They do. They absolutely do. But A&M might too. He had a fake ID. Oh, I didn't know Shanahan had a fake ID. Chris Cobb with the early score prediction. Ags 45, Florida 14. If that happens, you're going to see me go off on stream for the live show on Saturday. Jeb says, I want to see more Dewberry. Yeah, it's interesting that TJ beat him out. Dewberry's been out of commission for a while with injury, man, so we'll see how he develops over the course of the year. Hot take, I think Terry stays on offense his career. Possibly, and Elko was calling him a receiver in the press conference, I think either after the game or today. They're calling him a receiver now, and this DB room looks solid for years to come, so I think he'll just play where needed, and right now it's receiver, and it looks like in the future it might be receiver too. I don't care where he plays. He's a freaking player. Andrew Greger says, I'm scared about Florida with the combo of Lagway and Napier probably coaching for his job. Also, Saturday didn't 100% sell me on Wigman. Yeah, it's a work in progress for Wigman too, but we just hope that this Saturday is like the next level of the progression, the trajectory for Wigman. Like I said, I don't think we need a perfect Wigman versus Florida. I think we need a good, efficient Wigman versus Florida, but we have to see improvement, game-on-game improvement for us to remain faithful in what's happening with Connor Wigman in the quarterback room right now. He's still not there yet, but this is the next level of the progression. All right, guys, right now we have 3 callers waiting in the chat. We have time to get a couple more, and if anybody else wants to get in there and get in the waiting room. Jeb, this might be a good time to get in the waiting room. Let me talk about a couple of teams around the country, specifically players on A&M's schedule that we've seen a couple weeks of sample size for. South Carolina. Now, that was a team going into the year that I thought had a chance to be a little bit better than expectations. I think their over-under win total was 5 or 5.5. And brutal schedule for them. Pretty shaky offense, obviously coming off of a brutal year last year with a very bad O-line. A lot of bad things going on in that team. Guys, South Carolina might be real. They just kind of dominated Kentucky, defensively at least. They just went on the road, gave up absolutely nothing defensively. They forced 2 interceptions, 5 sacks, 11 tackles for losses, and 3 of 10 passing night from Brock Vandagriff. All on the road at Kentucky. And you got to hand it to Matthew Dawson of Texags and the Redshirt Sophomore podcast, who came on this show preseason and said, don't sleep on that South Carolina defense when we were talking about who the best defenses we might face this year. It's looking like South Carolina might be a top 3 defense on the schedule right now. Don't sleep on them, guys. Offensively, they're still figuring some stuff out with Lenora Sellers and Rocket Sanders, but as that last game went on, he got better. He was 11 for 15 on the night. They have a ways to go on that side of the ball, but I think like it's a play-action combo with Rocket Sanders kind of getting back into shape after being very injured over the last couple of years. They could get better and better offensively over the course of the year with an improved offensive line, and that might just be the best road team we play this year as of right now. Now, this weekend, they have a huge test that's going to tell us a lot about 2 teams on the schedule. It's where College game days go, and it's the 11 a.m. game between LSU and South Carolina. That's kind of a very revealing game for both teams. So I'm thinking, for the watch party we do this weekend for the Florida game where I go live on this channel, I'm thinking we go live at 11 and we watch that game together because it's really important towards kind of the way the season's going to go and some of the opponents on the year. So that's a very important game for Aggies to watch. Keep an eye on that one. We'll see how things develop there. So you have the road opponent in South Carolina trending up, and then you have Auburn. They just lost at home to Cal, who really just controlled and dominated the game in Jordan-Hare. They came in, and they passed all over Auburn. They controlled the possession, the time of possession on the game by over 10 minutes. They forced 5 turnovers. Peyton Thorne threw 4 interceptions, and I will say 2 were not really his fault. One was off of a drop, and the other one was off of like a tapped arm while he was throwing. But the other 2 were like mystery balls that went straight to the defense. Cam Coleman only had 2 receptions on the game. They couldn't establish a running game, and they just got handled at home, man. Cal was able to put up a lead on them, and Auburn just didn't have the horses to come back in the game. And that's a Cal whose best player at running back, Jaden Ott, only averaged 1 yard per carry on the night. They carved Auburn up with Fernando Mendoza, their quarterback, and that receiver core, and they controlled the game with passing. And in the preseason breakdown of Auburn, we talked about, okay, they might be pretty good up front, but they lost like 4 guys in the secondary, all NFL talent, to the league. And that came to bite them. So when South Carolina is trending up, I mean, Auburn is looking bad, guys. Peyton Thorne, they're stuck with him, man. They're not going to be able to get these really good weapons. The ball, it seems. I mean, there's a lot of time on the year. They could change by the time we play them second to last game of the year. But right now, Auburn's looking really rough, guys. I'm going to quickly touch on Texas because, yeah, they're good. We need to talk about them. A lot of time left between now and that game. But Quinn Ewers, their offensive line, and, you know, their diverse and deep offensive weapon stable that I don't think really has a superstar. Quinn Ewers is a superstar. What he did versus Michigan was just be extremely poised, throw some ridiculous balls, like kind of on the run and just like navigating the pocket. Quinn Ewers looks like a stud right now, guys. I'm going to call it how I see it. Right now, Quinn looks his best he's ever looked. They played clean. They played within themselves. And they kind of just let Michigan fall apart in front of their eyes, and they just kept playing clean football. In the second quarter, Michigan had 2 huge turnovers on Michigan's side of the field on third down plays where they could have punted and really changed the game. No, they had turnovers on both plays. One was like, why are you passing the ball on 3rd and 2? You should be trying to run on inside versus Texas in this new look defensive line. They opted for a short pass that got tipped and intercepted. The next play, their best player on offense, Loveland, their tight end, just fumbles without being contacted and just gave the game to Texas, and Texas wasn't going to stop scoring. Texas wasn't going to make a mistake. So Texas was just able to go out there and play their football and win the game. And Michigan just didn't have the horses to keep up scoring, especially given those turnovers early in the game. Now, I think jury is still out on Texas's defense, and probably not going to get definitive answers for quite a while because OU looked bad versus Houston offensively. So it might not be until UGA where this defense really gets tested for Texas. So still a question mark there, in my opinion. We'll see how things go, because you got a lot of time between now and then. But looking at Texas' schedule with OU looking so bad, it really looks, and Kentucky looking bad too, it's really looking like there are 10 wins out there for Texas pretty confidently. I mean, I think UGA and A&M, those are their 2 toughest games down the road. But right now, it's looking like pretty smooth sailing for Texas, unfortunately. But let's see how things develop and change over the course of the year. They still have to go through an SEC schedule. They're still relying on a stable of running backs that doesn't have the lead guy, the bruiser, in Baxter. Let's see how things play out. But that was a really good showing for Texas at Michigan, doing what they needed to do. Missouri has done exactly what they're supposed to do versus 2 lesser opponents in Murray State and Buffalo. And now, I'm just going to quickly go through Missouri because how much you're going to learn versus those 2 teams. There is a chance their defense is better than expected because they've given up 0 points on the year so far. And yes, like much inferior opposition. But, I mean, they gave up 85 yards in the first game. They gave up like 170 yards the next game. Maybe their defense is a little better than expected after losing 9 starters and like 90% of their coaching staff to LSU. Offensively, they've done exactly as expected, and that's without any kind of explosion from Luther Burden. He's kind of been muted on the year so far. He's been good, but not really exploding onto the scene. They've just been efficient and good offensively, and that's with Luther Burden actually missing half of the Buffalo game. He got sick half of that game. Missouri looks real, but I bring Missouri up to say that they are going to have their first kind of, semi-test this weekend versus Boston College at home. So keep an eye on that, see how their trends develop versus that game this weekend. And the last game that we're going to play, the last team we're going to play against this year that I want to bring up today is LSU, who lost to USC in week 1, showed some defensive improvement in that game, but still lost the game. But they followed that up with difficulty separating from Nichols last week in a game that opened with a Nichols safety where, I'm saying Nichols punt, like snapped the ball out of the end zone on a punt. LSU goes down and scores, goes up 9-0. That game was a 2-point game in the third quarter. Now, LSU's problem right now is they look extremely one-dimensional on offense. They ran for 64 yards versus Nichols and 113 yards versus USC, and that was before they lost veteran running back John Emery for the season. Unfortunately for him, that sucks because he's been around forever. He's been through a lot in his career. He's out for the year, and they just lost their starting nose, and that's a position where they can't afford to lose players because that's probably the most efficient position group on their team. So, guys, this game versus South Carolina is going to be an absolutely huge indicator for both teams, maybe more for LSU, but obviously South Carolina has a chance to start the season really strong. That's a game we got to pay really close attention to, and I'll be watching here on the channel with you guys. But, guys, that's it for the updates around the country. I wanted to go through some teams that I found interesting on the schedule. I didn't touch on a couple other teams, but these are the teams I wanted to talk about. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about these guys? Let's check in with the chat real quick. Before we get into the call-ins, we have Theo and Lash in the waiting room. Jackson popped out of there. Jackson, if you want to jump in right now, I'll throw you to the front of the line. If not, we'll go straight into Theo. Let's see what you guys are saying right now. Ooh, let's see. Top defense, or was Kentucky's offense just that bad? Kentucky's offense might be just that bad, but still, to shut them down like that, they had a pick six, 2 interceptions on the night, gave up nothing. I mean, there's a chance you're right, Jeb, but it's worth monitoring at this point. There's a real chance Kentucky is that bad. There absolutely is. LSU versus South Carolina is such a fun matchup. It's going to be great. Thorne threw 4 picks. Yep. Auburn's secondary is bad. Yep, it's cheeks, Jeb. It's cheeks as of right now. Chris Cobb says, game day will come back to Aggie Land if we both have a winning record. Bank it. Yeah, us in Texas? Yeah, for sure. Texas did a good job in the portal at receiver, and their O-line is so good. And Quinn Ewers navigates the pocket really well. They play off of each other really well. Michigan, a little success in the running the ball. They just have 0 passing game. Absolutely. Because they didn't add the guy in the portal. Yeah. I mean, you would think Michigan could get a guy in the portal too. Oklahoma, Oklahoma always gets up for Texas. I read from 2000, Oklahoma owns the series like 19 or 7, something like that. I just think the deficiency looks really strong this year, but absolutely they could. The Longhorns have the easiest schedule in the SEC, says Kingo. They do. There's 10 wins on that schedule for sure, but what really matters is our game versus them at the end of the year. Brady Cook has been terrible. He's had some weird balls. He's had some weird moments, but it also seems like he's trying to do too much at times. Had some weird balls sail on him, thrown some interceptions. He's ran for like, 60 yards in the last game and done some fun things. Something to monitor for sure, Jeremy. Thanks for bringing that up. He has had some really bad moments for sure. Chris Cobb says OU will beat TU. I'm for it. Nichols seems to give people trouble. For the first time in forever, LSU's D-line is thin. It's very thin and thinner now. They lost the one stabilizing force on their interior D-line. In spring, I was listening to Brian Kelly, and I forget the guy's name, but he was saying this D-lineman was like the one guy they could rely on. Outside of that, no one's really separated. Now they lose that guy. So definitely something worth monitoring. All right, guys, let's get into the calls tonight. We have Jackson up first, and then we have Theo and Lash. And beyond that, anybody else wants to get in here, go ahead and call in now. The link is pinned in the chat. Jackson, you're on with Drew. What's on your mind tonight, my friend?
Oh, nothing. What's up, Drew?
Not too much, man. Not too much. Just kind of nervous. We got a big game this weekend, and looking at some of the areas in the team we're wanting to see improve. What's your feel on the Aggies right now going into Florida?
I'm feeling good. I'm only questioning about Connor right now. He's looked good, but like, how's he gonna do with the tough environment? Because he hasn't had too many like true away games,
Yeah, for sure.
Outside of like freshman year, he played like at South Carolina. He was talking about that today, which I'm sure was tough.
Yeah.
But I think he'll look good. I think as long as, like you said, we have a good game from him, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
But as long as he can control the offense and get us downfield, I think we'll do good because I think Le'Veon Moss has looked amazing so far.
Yeah, and what I've been saying is I think if Le'Veon stays healthy, he's a 1,000-yard back. I think he's that level of a player. And now that the O-line is looking like they're going to complement him, I think you can lean on this running game. And, yeah, you hit it on the head. I don't think Connor needs to be perfect, man. He just needs to be accurate when he's asked to pass the ball. He needs to, just be poised and be solid. He doesn't need to be a game breaker versus Florida. He needs to use this game as the next level of progression and just play winning football. He doesn't have to be great. He doesn't have to go out there and wow us. He needs to be solid.
Exactly, yeah. And then you said Florida has some good receivers. Is that what y'all said?
Yeah, they're really confident in that receiver room. Absolutely.
All right, yeah. I was watching Mike Elko talk about that, and I was thinking, man, I don't know, because our DBs have looked like strong this year, like coming out of a weakness from last year. I think they've looked probably one of our best groups so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it has a chance to be maybe the best DB group that we've had since Elko first got here in his first stint as the D coordinator here. But I'm really interested to see how they do against teams that try to take the top off, because obviously Notre Dame and McNeese couldn't do that. Florida will try to do that. So this is really going to be the test that tells us where that DB room is at. But I'm with you. If I'm betting, they can shut it down, man. I think I've seen some really good stuff from Ricks and Thomas and Lee, man. I think we could lean on that group for sure. I want to see the pass rush get home this game, though.
Yeah, and I want to see more from Nick Scorton over there, man. I was so excited about him coming in. I'm just excited. I'm ready for him to get that first sack.
Yeah, man, he's gotten close, man. There've been a couple plays where he's just spun out of the tackle and gotten into the backfield, only to see the runner take a different angle, or see Riley Leonard kind of escape with his legs. But once you get to a team that likes to drop back more, you're gonna see it. What'd you say?
I said the pass rush is getting in. It's not like that. Like last game against McNeese, I think it was Solomon DeShields. He forced that second pick because he just got in on the quarterback. Like they're getting in. So like, I'm not concerned about the sacks at all. Like they're gonna come, but like they're getting in and they're pressuring the quarterback.
100%, man. I would bet that we get one versus Florida, given how that O-line's looked, given what they're going to try to do with their quarterbacks and try to get those receivers involved. I think it happens this week. What else is on your mind?
Great against Miami from the little bit I watched, but Cam Ward looked insane for Miami whenever I watched them play Florida.
Yeah, he's got to be a top 3 Heisman pick right now. I think him and Quinn and the running back out of Boise, I think those are kind of the 3 guys that are like kind of leading the country right now in that front.
Yeah, he looked really good. I was like, dang.
Yeah.
But what was the third weakness you said? I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was run defense. I think we haven't touched that one yet.
Run defense, yes. Man, that's a shocker to me right there.
Yeah.
I really thought we were going to be able to lock that down with York. Maybe it's because York is still getting used to it because he doesn't have Cooper beside him, who was a stud last year. But I think that'll calm down.
Yeah, I think there's hope for it. And really, if you don't give up that 46-yard touchdown run versus Notre Dame, you might feel differently about that game. And that was a mistake by York. York, I didn't think was awful every play versus Notre Dame, but on the plays where he was bad, we paid for it. And that was one of them. He took a bad angle and he couldn't get the guy on the ground. And I still have faith in him at least to fix what he's been doing wrong, and that's just kind of misgap and misangling things. I think York can get that at least sealed up. Now, he has some deficiencies in size, but I still want to see what he does. This Florida game it's going to tell us a lot, man.
I agree. I got one question for you.
What's that?
What uniforms do you think we're rocking this weekend? I saw somebody ask if they think we're gonna wear the all white with the white helmets. I was just wondering your opinion.
You know what? I'm going to agree with that because I think Elko's ready to throw some different combos out there. I don't think he's ready to reinvent the wheel, but he talked about how he's like, we can switch things up and just kind of change the combinations. Let's bank on that. Let's go for the all whites this weekend.
I'm hoping for those icy whites, man. All white.
That'd be sick, man.
It looks so nice.
Yeah, and I love the white helmets versus Notre Dame. It's very subtle, right? It's not like a huge change or like an alternate. It's just clean.
It just looks so fresh.
Yeah.
I think we'll go out there and win this weekend, though. I was thinking about the other day. I think we'll put up like 34 on them. That's just off the top of my head. I think it'll be like 34-21.
That'd feel pretty good. And you know what? From what we've seen from this defense, I don't see a reason why we have to give up more than around 21, 24 points. I think they could hold them to around there. Yeah, man. I think it's on the table. I feel good, but the scary thing is the alternative is you can't do it against Florida. I mean, what's happened these next few games?
That makes all of us really nervous for the rest of the year.
Yeah, man. Well, all right, Jackson, any closing thoughts?
No, sir. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. Call back anytime. It was good to hear from you, man. Have a good night.
I'll be on the show.
All righty, man. Thanks for being here. Bye. Later. All right, good call from Jackson. Let's check in with the chat, and then we'll get into Theo. Chris says we'll be 4-1 going into the Missouri game. Bank on it. Bank on Archie being a win. I hope so. They're a little bit better than you expected, but they still have some of those classic Arkansas mistakes and blunders that cost them games. And I have a feeling we're going to in for the same dance at Jerry World that we're always into. And we'll probably win. Right now, probably win the game, but it'll probably be crazy once again. Jay says I don't think the long girls have been texted yet. Colorado State, Michigan, gutted from last year. Now UTSA, ULM. I agree. OU will beat them, and then Georgia, then Vandy. Yeah, but they've done exactly what they're supposed to do against those teams. So we'll see. That OU game will be telling, and obviously the Georgia game will be. OU will get boat raced by Tennessee. Yeah, I think so, man. I think so. Tennessee looks really good. Jeb says, I think I'll be the last caller if I can. Nice, Jeb. Right now we have 3 people waiting. Rojo says, good stuff. Thanks for being here, Rojo. Or Rojo. Rojo. All right. Theo, you're on with Drew. What's on your mind tonight, my friend? Absolutely nothing. You there, Theo?
Exactly. I'm here.
I know. It probably went to sleep on you, didn't it?
Yep. Stuck here playing Call of Duty, and yeah.
Oh, stuck here. Poor you playing Call of Duty and talking college football.
What a poor life.
What's on your mind, man? How you feeling right now about the Aggies?
Oh, I feel like we're on schedule of where I thought we'd be. 8-4, 9-3 is what I said during the year.
Yeah.
Um, all year, I have really not been off of that. Um, I do worry about the D line a little bit, but I think that will come, like you said, when we get to face teams with
That want to get their
quarterbacks.
receivers the ball and drop back and
Yeah.
longer developing pass plays.
I think it's also going to be something where we may have to make an adjustment and play more bump and run or press coverage.
Take away some of the short stuff and kind of make the quarterback hold the ball longer.
We're going to have to – something's going to have to give.
Yeah.
We do play quite a bit of off coverage at the moment.
Yep.
And so with that, that gives up those quick throws and those screens. Now, we've been really good to come up and affect that and prevent them from going for big yardage. But even if they're not going for big yardage, it still hurts.
Yeah.
When it's, second and 10 or second and 14, etc.
Yeah.
And we give up 5 yards in the screen game, or we give up 10 yards in the screen, or not 10 yards, but 3 yards in the screen game.
Yeah, and that was a problem versus Notre Dame. Yeah, I mean, we were having some good first down success versus Notre Dame, but then they would get plays exactly like you're describing on second down and kind of take us out of those must pass, like drop back pass, third down scenarios where we could pin our ears back.
Exactly. And so that's going to be a situation we're going to have to watch. Also, the whole run defense, I think it's just a matter of getting used to the calls, the scheme.
Yeah.
Last year, we were very much more of a team that we were going to come downhill and hit you no matter what, if it was run or pass.
Yeah.
And even our defensive line, they were going to come with the linebackers in that aspect. But I've noticed with Bateman and Elko, we're more of a read and react defensive line. So we will get the tackles at the line of scrimmage, but not like the TFLs we had last year.
Right.
And that's just the way that Bateman and Elko wants to attack the run game.
Do you still feel good about the personnel on the D line?
Oh yeah, I think the
D
line personnel, and actually the D line personnel is great for what Bateman and them want to run, because we do have a lot of the bigger bodies who are more power guys who want to read and react and use power moves to get off their blocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We don't have we have them, the Rylan Kennedys, the Malik Sillas, etc., but we don't really have the defensive tackles that want to get up the field. Maybe Hicks, now that I'm watching the way the defensive line is being played and who's at the D tackle, with Turner mostly being there. He's not really going to be the type of guy who's going to use his speed to get up the field.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
well, it's the test this weekend, man. I think we'll see a different look, probably defensively, an adjustment versus Florida. We'll see where they go with that. How about offensively? Let's get you talking about what you think we need to see from Connor. I mean, do you think we saw progression versus McNeese? I think we did in some capacities. I think we were talking about, you were showing me where he kind of missed some underneath routes, kind of got some tunnel vision at times. How are you feeling about Connor, and what do you want to see versus Florida?
I think he just needs to play more ball. He needs to be able to trust this offensive line a little bit more. And that's going to come with experience, and that's going to come with more snaps with this line.
Yeah.
In the game against McNeese, especially when he was getting down towards the red zone, he kind of locked in to try to get I call them the yellow balls.
Yeah.
And he would hold the ball a little bit too long.
Yes.
The two that come to mind is the scramble that he had in the red zone, and then the overthrow of the tight end. in the red zone. Both of those were things where he didn't read the play and locked into guys.
Yeah. Those were his two worst plays on the night, I think.
Definitely. He locked into the running back on the scramble.
Yeah.
For those who can remember what I'm talking about here. And because of that, he missed Thor on the scramble drill.
You're talking about the goal line play where he ran right and Le'Veon was kind of in front of him, but Le'Veon transitioned into blocking a little bit earlier, and he wasn't even an option at that point. Thor was somewhat open. You could have tried to Thor, and he didn't see it.
Yeah, that's a throw he would have tried last year if he had. Well, I'm pretty sure that's a throw he would try if he saw it.
Yeah. And you make a good point. He needs more reps, man. I mean, what? He's like still 9 starts into his career. He's had a huge lull in playing football. He probably didn't throw a ball for a solid 4 or 5 months. This is his first game action. And, yeah, he had these couple of bad plays, but he also found some rhythm, especially on that last drive before he sat. So he was able to get some rhythm and flow with those receivers. And I thought the receivers played all right as the game went on. I still think there are a couple of alignment issues, and I think some receivers give up on their routes a little bit early, but I think there's still stuff to work through and get better with. And I think it's a progression. And like I've said, I don't think it has to be perfect versus Florida, but I want to see that next step.
I do too. That's another thing is I want to see the next progression of Klein's offense.
Yeah, for sure.
And how he's going to scheme these wide receivers.
Yeah.
Because his scheme can start off really simple, and then it develops layers as it goes on. So I wonder what the next layer is.
Yeah.
I really liked, going back to the Notre Dame game real quick, I really liked how much we ran stacked wide receivers and stacked formations.
Yeah.
I just need to see better route combos, and I don't know if that's because the wide receivers weren't there that game, or if we just didn't call the right route combos, but it's there.
Yeah, and I would wager that they didn't show much of that stuff, obviously, versus McNeese. They kept it very simple, and they've had 2 weeks to kind of build on their offense for the Florida game. So I think you'll probably see, obviously, the wrinkles come this week, and that's why this week is just so important. We'll get a lot of things revealed to us. Any closing thoughts, Theo? I have some callers stacking up. Anything closing out tonight?
Not really. Just hope we continue to stay healthy. We've been relatively lucky in that aspect compared to some other teams around us. And just enjoy the ride. Hit the lights. Enjoy the game as they come. Because, like you've said recently, we only get 12 of them a year. And there's no point in getting too upset about something that, we can't really control.
Yeah.
But enjoy the wins.
Absolutely. I'm enjoying the ride, man. I still wake up happy because I know it's football season, and obviously there's some anxiety. You want to see the Aggies win. But, yeah, enjoy it, man. It's going to be done in a flash. Thanks for the call, Theo. I appreciate you. Have a good night, and hopefully I'll hear from you Thursday when we do the game predictions. Later. I think his phone froze at the last minute, but we'll just call it there. It was a good ending. All right, catching up on the chat. Then we'll get into Lash, who some of you guys were talking to in the chat. Let's see what he wants to get off his chest. Then we have Matthew Dawson in the waiting room. And then, Jeb, if you want to call in, you can go in after Matthew Dawson. We'll call it a show. All right. Steve says, I already read that one. That was fun, Drew. Appreciate it. Yes, sir, Jackson. Thanks for calling in, man. That was great. Jackson, are you the one that beat me in CFB 25? And I almost beat you at the end because you were getting crazy. Was that you? Yeah, thanks for calling in, man. Kingo gives me another one of these Dr. Diabolical, would you rather scenarios that I love. Would you rather win 7 games and beat the Longhorns or win 9 games but lose to them and they keep us out of the playoffs? 9 games. I want to win 9 games more than 7, more than beating Texas. That's just me in a year one. I want to win 9 games. And if we're right there, I think it's a good sign because right now Texas looks good, in my opinion. Rose says the J is hard. You had it right the first time. All right, it's a hard J. Good to know. Good to know. Thanks for commenting, Rojo. I appreciate it. How do you feel about the Aggies losing to a team that lost to NIU? I'm so mad at Notre Dame. Why do you do this, Notre Dame? Why do you do this to us? Unfortunately, it's a thing that Marcus Freeman has done before at Notre Dame. He's lost some of these mysterious games at home where he's a huge favorite and makes us look bad. And, yeah, it makes you raise a lot of questions. Absolutely. Absolutely. Chris says, I feel really good about the team. Elko was the right hire. The Notre Dame game will haunt us, but we'll be fine and go 9-3 or 10-2. Yeah, let's make that game not matter, right? Like, just get better and better and better. Jeff says, I'll call after Dawson. Kingo likes Dr. Diabolical. Yeah. Yeah, you went Dr. Diabolical with that one. All right, guys. Drew has to use the restroom real quick, then we'll get back into the last couple of callers. And I actually have a viewer-submitted question I want to bring up at the end of the show, too, that's kind of interesting. Another Dr. Diabolical question. Actually, it's not that bad. I'll be right back. Give me about a minute. Optimistic Ag, it's all good. You can always rewind, but you're catching the end of the show. Good to have you in here. We have a couple callers in the waiting room, and then I have a viewer-submitted question I want to get to at the end of the show. Dean says, TJ Shanahan back on the depth chart already. Yeah, I saw him in there as backup guard. We'll see if he plays this weekend. I don't know how that's going to go. Notre Dame was still hungover after the big win. Absolutely. Big hangover game for them, obviously. They're better. You know, they're more talented. They should have handled them, and they laid an egg. Played terrible. And they do have deficiencies, but they also just played terrible. Shan says, I don't think we've began to see even a quarter of Collins' bag yet, especially since SEC play. Am I nervous wreck? Absolutely, but there has to be more. There is more. You'll see a lot of that stuff start opening up. All right, guys. Next caller. Lash, it's good to hear from you, man. How you feeling right now? It sounds like you're kind of going down into a dark place, Lash.
Well, I've been in less dark places. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And for the record, I've been reading some of the comments. No, I'm not a T-SIP.
Don't even accuse this man of this. This man loathes them more than almost any person I've ever met. Maybe he might hate them the most, guys.
I gag at the sight of burnt orange. I'm class of 78, Texas A&M, and proud of it. And I just don't like what I saw the first two games, particularly all the running yards were given up.
Yeah, they got to clean that up. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a development on the team, and I think it's not the jury's still out. I don't think it's doomed yet, but we're going to find out this weekend probably.
Yeah, my as far a little insight on what might have happened to Kentucky against South Carolina. Josh Pate pointed this out. Stoops tried really hard to leave UK. In fact, he almost had the job here. And if you try to leave and it goes public, you better have that other job locked up, because then you got to turn around and face a locker room full of players you tried to bail on. And they might be a little less motivated to play for you after that.
Yeah, I heard that. And you know what? This is a good point. I heard that Mark Stoops made it as far as the Dixie Chicken before he got ran out of College Station by torch and pitchfork. And then he goes back to Kentucky and he's like, oh, I'm just kidding, guys. I'm back. I want to coach you guys. You think they're going to want to play for him 100%? You think all the feelings are good in that locker room after he just got kicked out of the Dixie Chicken and had to fly his ass all the way back? I don't think so, man.
I'm not saying they went out and laid an egg on purpose, because
no.
If you're playing at that level, you have a certain amount of pride. But before, they might have wanted to run through a wall for the guy.
Right.
Now they just might want to run into the wall instead, you know.
Exactly. You lose that extra ounce of effort.
One in Lexington.
Yeah, no, they absolutely did, and it's looking bad in Lexington. But I still thought South Carolina looked like more of a formidable opponent than I might have thought going into the year, especially that defense. But good game of two heated rivals in South Carolina and LSU this weekend, so that'll be interesting to watch. That's a really good point to bring up on Stoops.
Yeah, that South Carolina game just became a lot more interesting.
Oh yeah, they got game day
since it's in Columbia, and our SEC road record is less than stellar.
Oh yeah.
And they've got a good coach. I mean,
oh yeah,
don't go to sleep on them.
Shane Beamer's good. Yeah, he gets the most out of them. He's a good fit there, and yeah, I mean that might be the toughest road opponent on the schedule as of this moment right here. Now further context is needed, but they just might be.
Yeah, the Florida game's going to tell us a lot, because I am not going to believe that. I'll believe we'll win an SEC road game when we actually do it.
Well, you'll get your answer this weekend. So let me ask you this, Lash: if they beat Florida, are you willing to budge from your 4-8 record prediction?
Yeah, well, if they beat Florida and they don't go to sleep on Bowling Green,
okay,
because they could win Florida, they could beat Florida and then give it all back the next week.
Yeah,
because Bowling Green darn near beat Penn State in Beaver Stadium.
Yes.
So those MAC teams, if you look past them, look what Northern Illinois did to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, my sister attended NIU, and she's been letting me have it ever since Saturday.
I'm sure she has.
Why couldn't A&M beat those guys? We did.
You can't give them the fuel, man. You just can't give them the fuel.
Shut up, will you?
Yeah. Yep. I know it, man. I'm so mad at Notre Dame for doing that to us, man. Why can't you just go out there and be great and be the best team we've ever seen?
Yeah, they turned a good loss into a bad loss in one fell swoop.
I know. You know how many times I was like, oh, that's probably a playoff team. We lost to a really good team. And they go out and lose to them? Man, get out of here, Notre Dame.
Yeah, and then between them and McNeese, I think I read somewhere that we're giving up 8.2 yards a carry on the ground.
Is that what it is?
With our supposedly elite defensive line.
Whoa.
And no sacks.
Whoa. You already heard my pushback and my arguments there.
I have three words for that. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
What the fuck?
That's it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it, but
I'll say it. Yeah. No, I know. It looks bad, man. It looks bad, and it's definitely a trend to follow. And if it stays bad, that's a weakness on the team. But, I've already talked about it. We'll see what happens. Florida's the tell-all.
It's supposed to be our biggest strength, and they might actually be a weakness. I'm like...
I didn't think it was going to be our biggest strength. Not after losing McKinley Jackson and Edgerrin Cooper.
Well, I guess I read too many news clips.
Yeah, they start getting convoluted and mixing, and it's like you're reading the same one over and over again. Yeah, I hear you.
Pretty much, yeah. Next issue, the wide receivers. When are they going to start getting some separation from some people?
This weekend.
Okay, well, I hope so, because when we have to start playing real SEC defenses, we're going to need those boys, because we're not going to be able to run all the time.
Right. Now, I will say our running game looks promising, and I think you'll acknowledge that, but let's see it against Florida, against some big boys.
Yeah, I mean, we can run the ball, apparently, but if we become one-dimensional because the other teams know that our wide receivers can't get separation, we're gonna see 7 and 8 people in the box.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have problems.
Yeah, I just want to do a quick fact check, because maybe this will alleviate some of your anxiety. It's not great. Notre Dame averaged 5.8 yards per rush, still really freaking good. And McNeese averaged 4.7, which is bad. But like I said, when the starters were out there, they only had 50 yards rushing. But it wasn't 8.8, okay?
Well, that's something.
Yeah, it's still bad.
I said I read it somewhere. I wasn't sure I believed
Too many clippings.
Because I didn't know how reliable the source was. Apparently not too.
Yeah, I got you.
Anyway, so
Connor, you want to talk about Connor?
Connor, yes, his feet looked a lot more fundamentally sound against McNeese. I'd like to see more of that against Florida because I think he's going to have to throw some receivers open rather than hope that they get open.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, man. I'm glad Moose Muhammad got into the game and he's doing something right. You know, I think there was something going on between games, and that could be a positive development for the room. And yeah, Connor needs to help them out for sure.
Yeah, he and Bussy were the two shining lights among otherwise pretty dimly lit wide receivers.
Well, plus Jade didn't play in week 2. Jade was the one guy that was consistently getting open versus Notre Dame, if you remember, on some of the shorter stuff, though. Nothing off the top, but yeah, let's see, man. Florida, that's the tell-all. And if you want to come in and just, you know, tell me you were right versus after Florida, that's when you do it. That's when it's like all going to be stamped in, at least for now.
All I'll say about that for now is if we beat Florida and then we don't give it back against Bowling Green, then I probably would be willing to believe that if we beat Florida in the Swamp, then we should be able to beat Mississippi State, even though we've been 0 for Mississippi for God only knows how long.
Yeah.
If we can't beat those guys and we can't beat Auburn the way they played, I mean, they've had two years. They've had 2 bad home losses: New Mexico State and Cal.
Yeah.
So if we beat Florida, we should be able to beat Mississippi State and Auburn. South Carolina is going to give us trouble. I mean, I'm not saying we won't beat them, but
it's interesting.
Not going to be easy. That game just got a lot more interesting. Because Williams-Brice Stadium is a harder place to play than people think it is.
Very underrated place. Yeah, I went to a game there in 2018, and that is a proud fan base, and that's a big-ass stadium. It's like an 80 to 90,000 capacity stadium. People don't realize that. That's a proud fan base. That place is a legit SEC venue for sure.
I'm going to quote Josh Pate again. He said that he's watched games there, and he said if he blindfolded you and put you at Williams-Brice Stadium, you'd swear to God it was one of the big stadiums that get all the press as far as crowd noise.
Absolutely. And it's just South Carolina hasn't given them the spotlight.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. Yeah, that's going to be a real test, but I'll feel better about everything if we get through these Florida and then the next couple of games leading into Missouri. That's what it's all about right now. It's the follow-up to what you showed versus Notre Dame. So we'll see how it goes, Lash. Any closing thoughts?
No, that was it. I think I covered everything on my list. I want to reiterate, I'm not a T-SIP.
Just stamping that in here. Stamping that in.
Kat saying what she thinks of that too.
Oh, yeah, I got you. Well, Ash, thanks for the call. Thanks for standing on your comments and coming in here. Really appreciate hearing from you, man. I hope to hear back from you after a couple of Aggie wins.
Yeah, me too. I hope it's after a couple of wins myself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, all right. I'll talk to you soon, Lash. Have a good night.
You too. Gig 'em.
Gig 'em. See, that's no T-SIP, guys. Come on. Lash ain't that bad. Lash has just seen some shit. He's been through some shit. All right? Let's let the Aggies prove him wrong, and he'll come back in here. You know he'll stand on business, all right? Let's check in with the chat, and then we'll get into Matthew Dawson of the Redshirt Sophomore Podcast. I'm excited to hear from him. Let's see what you guys are saying. Shamar had to ask today in the media when the last time we won a road game was. I saw that. Yeah, it's been a little while. Yeah, the emotions from the NIU coach were awesome. That was amazing college football moment right there. Still mad at Notre Dame. Yeah, we had to fact check him what's what. We had to tell him what's what. But he acknowledged it. He acknowledged that his sources may have been shaky. He might have been getting some sliced bread type sources there. Which quarterback will Florida trot out this week? Sounds like both. It's going to be both. So, yeah. Honestly, neither one terrifies me. I think Lagway looked pretty good last week against bad opposition. I think it's about us, man. It's about how we travel. It's about, what we do to address some deficiencies and how Connor progresses, man. Does Florida have a D tackle that's like 480? Yes, they do. They have a big boy down there. I love me some sloppy cheeseburger football. I'm excited to see him play. No way this team goes 4-8. Beef Eater, a Notre Dame fan says, Dear A&M fans, no words. Apologies for the letdown. We had one job and we blew it. Should have known where we were in trouble when Freeman could not remember the NIU's name after the A&M game. Won't forget it now. I feel for you guys, and it sucks that pattern is developing under Freeman right now. Obviously, wish you would have won. Thanks for dropping in, though. Appreciate that. Hope to see icy white unis worn by Kenny Football against South Carolina. Still all-time best. White helmets, blended chrome emblem and face masks, white stripes on shoulders with maroon gray numbers. Woo! Let's get it. That sounds juicy, man. We're going to see some – I think we'll see some all-whites this year. I think we will. James says severe BAS. That's what we're dealing with here, guys, with Lash. But that's okay. Let's prove him wrong. Let's give him a reason to get rid of the syndrome. Going 8-4 against the schedule isn't good. Being okay with 8-4 means this is a near complete rebuild that isn't close to what we were pitched by the national or BCS media. 8-4 would not be ideal. I want 9 wins, but it happens, man. It would suck. But I mean, it still means you get a lot of players back next year and have a lot to play for. But yeah, we want more from the year, obviously, and it's still on the table right now. Aggies looking like the new Vandy after this weekend. I like the new Vandy. Thank you for the compliment. Vandy looks good now. Do you bench Thomas for Moose? I think you rotate them all. I'm not benching anybody. I'm keeping everyone playing. Mike Elko defense versus a true freshman. Nothing could possibly go wrong, right? Stop it. My key to the game is if we run the ball, our O-line plus Moss, Daniels to run. The other keys if we pass game can hit some, it'll open up the run game. Yeah, like I said, condos don't have to be amazing. Just be good and accurate and poised and solid. The Florida nose guard isn't effective at all, though. Yeah, I know. All right, guys. Oh, Robert's going to Gainesville, man. Hell yeah. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. I'd go on an NIU podcast, says the Notre Dame fan. I'd take my lumps, but there aren't any, which just makes it worse. I know, man. Thanks for coming in here and venting, man. I had a good experience with Notre Dame fans for the most part. I think it was like 90-10 good experiences. There were a couple bad ones, but that's any team. But thanks for jumping in, man. Appreciate the show and interaction, says Nirmal Patel. Thanks for coming in here. Appreciate you. All right. Matthew Dawson of the Redshirt Sophomore Podcast. How you feeling tonight, man?
I'm feeling all right. It's Monday Night Football, but gotta still look ahead to Saturday.
I know we're already there, man. It's the tell-all, right? Is this not the litmus test for like the first half of the year or beyond?
Oh, dude, it's hard to say because it's still early in the season, but like this is the game where like it is going to either eliminate or confirm a lot of my prior thoughts on this football team.
Yeah. Those thoughts being like the concerns. What are some of those?
I mean,
the obvious stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the obvious stuff. I think and I don't know how to fix the run game, and I trust Mike Elko, to like work on that, but man, the loss of McKinley Jackson, and I never think that like a run game, is just like one person. But remember 2022, like when he got hurt?
Oh yeah.
Right, and then A&M went on that stretch where like they were just horrendous against the run. Like,
yep.
Just having like a menace in there, just eat up blocks and forcing that line of scrimmage backwards was just such a big deal. And I think I'm missing it more than I thought that we would. I wasn't sure if Brownlow Dindy was going to step up. He's seems like not. Albert Regis because Isaiah Rakes transferred to Auburn and maybe having another body in there, just rotating in fresher guys was another big deal. Rodis Johnson hasn't seen the field a ton.
Nope.
At least in the Notre Dame game, he didn't see a lot of time. So it's just I don't know how to fix it, but I'm just going to try to stay optimistic, and I will say it does need to get fixed before Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas a little bit better than expected. Now, going back on how one player can impact the defense with McKinley, for whatever this anecdote is worth, my offensive line coach at HBU, now HCU, Houston Christian, told us in a meeting that outside of the quarterback, the one player that can single-handedly impact the game most is a nose guard. That was a lingo in a college meeting. That can change running lanes from the start. You can totally throw off angles and expected angles of a play just by penetrating on the inside. I mean, it can change everything. And that's exactly what McKinley did, right? I mean, how many times would McKinley just throw people? Just move them like a half yard backwards from the first point of contact and just not budge, or just eat double teams and just collapse the offensive line. You don't really have that right now.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, it especially is important. Like, all the time, traffic for your linebackers. I don't see like these linebackers that we have. They either haven't shown a lot of stuff between the ears on film, or they're just not incredibly experienced, where like they can just navigate that traffic so easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like in a zone blocking scheme, I guess. Like you're looking at these guards, like just getting downfield and getting hands on our linebackers, and it's a little bit nerve wracking because we're gonna probably see some of those schemes down the road here for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just look. I know everyone's nervous about it. I'm not ready to call it quits on that unit yet, or that I guess that part of the game yet. But yeah, it's just easily something that needs to be monitored. And
For sure.
and honestly, it doesn't matter. How good your pass rush is or how good your secondary is playing if you're giving it 5-6 yards of carry.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. That's why this is such a big tell-all kind of a game. The other two kind of negatives that we're kind of monitoring right now that I brought up in the show were the passing game and the lack of sacks on the year. Do you want to address both of those?
Yeah, the lack of sacks, I'm not super worried about yet. Probably, we were talking about this before. Just it's McNeese State. Gordon and that first team, they saw like 15 snaps,
Yeah.
maybe. So they got pressure. Riley Leonard and Notre Dame, they totally schemed around it, and it's a little bit worrisome that just getting the ball off quickly, right? We might see a little bit more. I don't know, maybe press man. I guess could be an answer for Mike Elko if teams want to play that quick pass game or that. I don't know. It's but yeah, the passing game, dude, it's gonna be tested this weekend, and I know Florida. If you want to look at that game against Miami and be like, oh, Florida's secondary's terrible, whoa. Dude, they're pretty freaking talented back there. And they had two guys go down in that Miami game. Asa Turner, who was pretty freaking good at Washington, right? He was a guy they expected to come in there and start. And then Devin Moore, who was an up-and-coming junior, played pretty decent last season, also went down in that Miami game. And you're getting guys like DJ Douglas in there, he's a fifth-year guy, but he's just former walk-on. Just not exactly – I don't know. He looked pretty terrible out there. So I just – and Asa Turner might be back.
Yeah.
Seems like he's day-to-day. I don't know what the status on Devin Moore is.
Yeah.
But if those guys are back, I'm not saying Florida's secondary is like elite, but they're talented,
How does it compare to what we saw against Notre Dame, given the context of the NIU game?
Okay, well, it is not as talented as the Notre Dame secondary. All right, I do. I watched the NIU game, man. And I just don't understand exactly what happened. Like NIU just found explosive plays in their back pocket, like when they just needed them most, right? They really only scored on like that 80-yard play, like another big play, and then like in that last possession, I don't know how they got the ball. Like that was a beyond weird game for me.
Yeah.
I'm not buying too much stock in Northern Illinois' offense. It's like when I'm not selling my stock on Notre Dame's defense, particularly their secondary. That was a weird game, man. I don't know. That was just a Marcus Freeman classic. Losing to an unranked team at home.
Yeah.
It
was.
But,
unfortunately for them, yeah, that's a trend now. And with the passing game, new offense, new playbook, new everything on the offense, Connor back. I just want to see progression. I don't need a perfect passing game, but I just want to see it be efficient and Connor be accurate. I want to see it complement the running game that we can probably lean on and just not screw the game up. And I think you can still win. I don't know. Is that too much to ask? And is that even possible? Is that enough to win? Just kind of complement a really solid running attack with Le'Veon and Amari and this O-line that looks to be trending in the right direction?
Yeah, I think if you can win this game scoring like 24 points, you can win this game. Yeah, sure, DJ Lagway might be playing. I know that's pretty scary, but, he's still a freshman.
Yeah.
We'll see, what happens there. The offensive line, their interior looks good, but their tackles, what's it, Crenshaw or whatever from San Diego State, maybe not yet being the guy that they thought that they were getting in the transfer portal. But I just so they're having issues at tackle right now. You have to think about the context, too. Miami's edge rushers are also insanely elite. So they made those tackles look bad. But so are Texas A&M's.
Mm-hmm.
So you like the matchup there. Is that Florida team going to be able to scheme around this defensive line the way that Notre Dame did? I don't know. We'll see. Because DJ Lagway, it's not like they couldn't do it, right? But it's a lot different, when you have a veteran quarterback there, knowing where to go with the football.
100%.
Like DJ Lagway, just insane athlete, dangerous in his own respect. Just it'll be interesting. I don't. And look, if A&M just wins the game and just gets out of Gainesville with a win, I'm gonna be happy, right? Like we'll talk about everything else and what went on in the game and what was good, what was bad after. But I would just be happy with a win.
Just fight on for another day. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, dang it, I was at a point and I just totally lost it. But it was about. Hold on. I had a good question for you here, and I was reading the chat. Someone's telling someone to shut up, and I got distracted. But anyway, all right, we'll just move on then. So yeah, it's obviously you want to get out alive, but I do want to see the progression of the offense. I want to see something from Connor. I mean, I thought he got some good rhythm versus McNeese, but he also missed some things versus McNeese. But footwork looked better, poise looked better. It was McNeese. Yeah, hopefully the pass rush gets home this game. It's an opportunity. And, yeah, I like Mike Elko defense against both quarterbacks they throw out there. But they both have a chance to have a good game on any given afternoon, I think. I want to see these DBs get tested. I want to see what they really are. I want to see some, this is the point I was going to make. All right, so even with the fact that Notre Dame was able to scheme around the defensive line of A&M, they were able to hit the quick hitters and, pass for 75% on such type of plays. The plays where he got the ball out quick, they passed 75%. Riley Leonard was just efficient, and, he did well enough for them to win. The defense still played freaking well enough for A&M to win the game. I mean, you give up, you're at 13 points with 3 minutes left in the game or 6 minutes, whatever it was. You would expect an offense to probably be able to score, enough to win, given that scenario, if Connors, has a pulse. So, I mean, yeah, they schemed around it and they were able to work with it and make lemonade, but defense still did their job, I think, overall with the end outcome of scoring. It's just the offense didn't help them out. So I forget that, too, in my discussions when I'm talking about, like, what Notre Dame was able to do to the defense. I forget, like, the defense played well enough. It wasn't perfect.
Oh, yeah.
But,
yeah, absolutely. My concern, though, comes with more so teams of the future. Teams like, I don't know, South Carolina.
I already gave you the props. I don't know if you were in here. I gave you props earlier in the show. We talked about South Carolina, what they did to poor little Kentucky, and Mark Stoops, who wishes he was an Aggie until he got ran out of the Dixie Chicken. And we talked about Missouri, talked about LSU, Texas, and I think that's it. Talked about all those guys. Do you want to touch on those? Tell me, just gloat. This is your time. Talk about what you were telling us with South Carolina and how you just might be right.
Well, I mean, the secondary hasn't been tested yet, so it's still TBD on like whether or not like their defense is actually like really elite. But their front seven is, and they showed exactly Cam Martin Scott, right? Unbelievable linebacker there. Showed up in the last half of that season. Debo Williams also really good. I'm pretty sure that's his name. And then their front seven, like. I didn't expect Dylan Stewart to be this good. I knew that he was going to play in that rotation. It was already like a pretty deep edge group.
Yeah.
And then you bring Kyle Kennard from Georgia Tech, who's had like 4 sacks in 2 games, and Tonka Hemingway, who's just a monster in the interior. Like, honestly, like for me, the surprise was the edge group being as elite as they are. And, part of that is just because that interior that they knew was coming back was so good, and that those linebackers are so good, and they're going to benefit even more from that defensive line just eating up stuff. So I've been saying it, and I don't know, everyone that I talked to, I feel like was like, what are you talking about? Beamer balls, stupid, whatever. Like, I don't know, maybe it is. And I don't love his coaching staff that he has there, but good Lord, are they talented in the front seven? And it could hurt some teams that are not ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm concerned about our run defense is because when you play South Carolina and they can't throw the ball that effectively, like they haven't really shown that they can do that yet. They're just going to be relying on a run game where they have multiple decent backs and two quarterbacks that are pretty mobile. So, like, it's just like games like that or Auburn. Like Peyton Thorne, obviously, maybe not the best arm in the world. I've been having a constant argument with someone that he thinks Peyton Thorne is better than Alan Bowman. I'm like, well, these are like kind of 2 of the bottom of the barrel guys. But Peyton Thorne.
What are we talking about here? Yeah.
Peyton Thorne stinks.
Yeah.
And like, but they can run the ball, and it's like that's why I'm concerned about those games. And both of those games are on the road.
Yeah.
Right. So just some food for thought. But I did want to ask you, Drew, about your because I didn't watch the LSU Nichols State game, if you can, or Nichols game, if you believe it or not.
Yeah.
I would love to hear what you saw from that game because I saw you on Twitter. We're kind of like, what's going on here?
It was on the side.
What?
Yeah. It was on the side screen, so I don't think I caught every single play. But LSU couldn't run the football. They ran for 63 yards. They obviously lost John Emery. They were leaning totally on Nussmeier in that passing attack. But Nichols just stayed in the game, and the game started with a safety and a touchdown by LSU. So they went up 9-0. Nichols answers. LSU's able to score. Nichols has like a 70-yard explosive run right up the middle of the LSU defense, right where they're weak in that interior D-line. Even weaker now after they lost their starting nose. It was just a weird, ugly game up until about the middle of the third quarter until LSU finally got control and put up a couple scores unanswered. It was a weird game. It was a lot of explosives by Nichols kind of keeping him in the game. But it was just weird that LSU couldn't separate, and that defense that kind of looked like was developing versus USC just was giving up a lot early in that game. So, I mean, what's their run game? They're down John Emery. I don't know what else they have much behind that. I know they have that, I forget his name, but the walk-on who has kind of been like their backup for a couple of years now. I think they have another guy. With that O-line, it's pretty surprising to see. And in the first game versus USC, I think they had like 100 yards rushing. I mean, it doesn't for an offense that was supposed to come out and be a more balanced approach after losing Jaden Daniels, where it was just like the Jaden Daniels show. They're really not showing that. And that was supposed to kind of be what their strength was offensively, kind of going to open it up. Anybody can touch the ball. They can run up the middle. They can do a lot of things with the running backs on that offensive line. But they look somewhat one-dimensional, which I don't know if Nuss is the guy to kind of lead LSU to a successful year with that being the way they attack.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember, their leading rusher last year was Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
By a long shot. Now, Logan Diggs was a good running back late in the season.
Yes.
But he transferred to Ole Miss, so he's not there anymore. I mean, you're looking at Josh Williams, who grad student's been there forever. I mean, I think he's okay. Caleb Jackson, like he's a younger guy, 4-star kind of.
Yeah, those are the two I was talking about.
But then after that, like, are you looking at Caden Durham? A guy that I know A&M wanted their recruiting class. Like, is he going to be a guy that has to step up? It's just shocking. It feels like that's an offensive line where, like, whoever you put behind there should be able
That's
to
exactly
be an effective runner.
Right? That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
Which is why I just feel a little bit iffy about this South Carolina game next weekend. I'm not betting on South Carolina +7 or anything. I'm just saying
it's so intriguing, man. I cannot wait. I can't wait.
It is a little too convenient that South Carolina, their front seven is ridiculous. LSU's offensive line is supposed to be ridiculous, but they haven't shown, even the last 2 seasons, they haven't really shown that they can run the ball effectively with a running back. It's like, I don't know, if they get one-dimensional, it means that the South Carolina secondary is going to get tested. So I'm pumped. That's probably the second game I'm most excited for this weekend, aside from A&M Florida.
Yeah, stop by if you can. Give us a status update in the middle of that game. We'll be live here, so I mean, I'm excited for that game, man. That's definitely gonna be watching that one on the big screen this weekend. But did you want to touch on Missouri? Obviously, haven't seen much from them given their opposition, but they haven't given up a point on the year. I mean, that's somewhat impressive. I know it's lower level of opposition, but I thought it was gonna be a hole on the team and giving up nothing. I mean, is that something to be monitoring? You can just say no.
I guess. I mean, it is impressive, right? Because they did lose, Blake Baker to LSU.
Like 9 starters.
About, a bunch of their starters who went at the NFL. I mean, I was concerned before, like, how many, I've been concerned / questionable about Blake Baker, whether or not he was worth the $2.5 million he was paid. But, I mean, Murray State's terrible. And then Buffalo, I mean, right there. First-year head coach Pete Lembo. They had their starting quarterback from last year transferred out to Eastern Michigan, Cole Snyder. So Buffalo is battling their own issues over there. So I would not take anything. I think Boston College is definitely I don't think Boston College should be ranked, but that's a whole different conversation. But I think Boston College is offensively. Bill O'Brien is going to give them problems. People forget. I know there's a lot of Texas fans probably in this chat that are going to slander me for this, but Bill Bryan's a good coach. All right. He might be a terrible GM. All right. He might be but he knows offensive football, right? Deshaun Watson looked his best when he was with Bill O'Brien. running like more of a college-like system there at,
Yeah.
at Texans. Bryce Young, the only Heisman-winning quarterback in Alabama history. I mean, what are we talking about? Like Bill O'Brien at Penn State, freaking Trace McSorley. Like this is the kind of stuff that like Bill O'Brien was capable of doing, and it's like I think it'll be a really interesting game. I'm not sure who I'm ready to take in that game. CD and I will be previewing that on redshirt sophomore, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm taking yet, and I have till tomorrow. So
I
gotta figure
appreciate
that
the
out
shameless plug. I'm going to tune in. I'm just kidding. No, it's all good. I plug you all the time. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I ended the discussion earlier in the video. It's like maybe it's something to watch. They've played nobody, but they have a good offensive test this weekend, so we'll definitely keep our eyes out for what happens there. Touched on LSU just now with you. Texas, I mean, they look good. Quinn Ewers looks like a superstar. He looks like the #1 quarterback to go in this draft. Poised, navigates the pocket, amazing, crazy ball placement, accuracy, and angles. Michigan, I think they took themselves out of the game in the second quarter with those 2 third-down turnovers. I mean, Loveland just fumbled the ball. And then I don't know what they're thinking, not trying to test the interior D-line and running up the gut on that first 3rd and short. Like, why not just give it a run and then punt the ball out and be safe? They give Texas the ball in plus territory. The game was over then. There was no coming back from that.
And then they come out in the third quarter and they're like, let's hand the ball to Khalil Holmes. And they do it 3 straight times and get a first down. It's like, all right. And then he never touched the ball the rest of the game. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing, Sharon Moore? That was ridiculous. But yeah, Texas looks good. All right, we'll give them their props. Their offensive line looks fine. Their defense looks good. I guess Michigan's offense could just stink really, really bad, but they look fine. So I mean, my top 3 teams in the SEC right now are Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee, and I don't think there should be any other. I don't think there's really be a different answer. Maybe Bama, I guess, if you're optimistic about Kalen DeBoer turning it around, because I don't know how many of your listeners were watching that game, but Alabama did not look good until 5 minutes left in that game.
They had to run up that score to make it kind of look like, oh, nothing happened here. Yeah.
By the way, I am glad that they did that. That Alex Golish, I don't know if you were watching that, but they were down 8 and they were on the 3-yard line, 4th and goal, with 9 minutes to go in the game, and he settles for a field goal. Like, what a softy move!
My problem was how do you know you're even going to have an opportunity to score a touchdown the rest of that game? I mean, your offense kind of sucks, and you're in position to do it. I mean,
it was beyond. It drove me crazy because then also I'm thinking like is Alex Golish, is he just trying to play Bama close? I'm like, is he just trying to play Bama close so that like when the Florida job opens up next year, that he's
no.
On it, that, I'm like, is that really what he's doing here? Because I couldn't think of any other reason why he wouldn't go for it against not just like, even if you're not just playing Alabama, if you're struggling offensively in that game, like, and you're down 8 with 9 minutes to go, like, regardless of who it is, but particularly because it was Alabama, I just thought it was wild.
It was wild, and then Bama just took over the game literally from that point on, and it was over. I mean, give yourself a chance, man. I mean, so what? You don't get it. What are you doing? You're going to lose to Bama at Bama. Okay, but give yourself a chance to win the game. You're down 8, and there's like, 6 minutes left in the game? Field goal? I mean, there's no balls there. Come on.
I think it was like 8 minutes left, but regardless, yeah. But that's my TED Talk. I mean, just absolute buffoonery from Alex Golish. I like Alex Golish, and I think he will get the Florida or the Arkansas job. I think they'd be stupid not to hire him.
Yeah.
I think he's that good. I was like, man, that was one of those things where I'm always gonna think about it when I think about Alex Golish now. I'm not gonna be able to get it out of my head.
Yeah. A couple other teams. I mean, Ole Miss. When are they gonna be tested? Probably not for a while. I mean, they go to Winston-Salem this weekend. Maybe. It's their. I noticed you just didn't even give them a thought for your top 3.
No. Well, just because they haven't played anyone, right? Like based on what I saw from Tennessee, like Tennessee looks. Now, honestly, I was not as high on NC State coming into the season. I mean, they lose C.J. Clark, Peyton Wilson almost their entire secondary besides Aiden White, and I know Tony Gibson loves working miracles, but at some point, right? And I love Robert Anae. I think their coaching staff is one of the best in the ACC. I just didn't think that they had the talent, but Tennessee just really handled.
They did exactly what they needed to do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just handle. So if I'm ranking teams, right, based on what I've seen so far, I'm putting Tennessee. I guess Ole Miss, won both games by 50, so you can't knock them. They're up there. They're probably I mean, I say there's 5 teams right now that I could see that have a legit chance of winning the SEC championship based on what I've seen. I haven't seen enough from Missouri yet to really be like, all right,
Agreed.
maybe they fixed it on defense. I think like those 5 teams, but I just kind of have Tennessee above just because the eye test for me. It's better talent. Once I see it from Ole Miss, I'm going to be probably inclined to be like, all right, this Ole Miss team might be pretty decent.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean,
play Wake Forest on the road. But,
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I had Tennessee as a playoff team in my. I did a playoff prediction buried in one of my live shows, and I have Tennessee in there. And yeah, man,
It's a great pick.
They look
it's a fantastic pick.
Yep, they look real good. And I had Penn State in there, and they scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. Dude, that game was weird because, well, I mean, Bowling Green got shut out in the second half, right? Because Penn State was like, okay, guys, all right. Like,
oh, yeah, we're playing a game. Yeah.
This is big boy stuff. But, I mean, Bowling Green has, like, a couple exceptional athletes. Harold Fannin, specifically is an absolute dog.
This is why you watch the redshirt sophomore, by the way. Have you noticed he can rail off, like, 5 of every team's best player? He can do it for a MAC school. He can do it for any obscure school. This is why you watch their content.
Well, look. People are going to be tuned into who Harold Fannin is when Bowling Green rolls.
That's true.
So people are going to be on. People are going to know who that guy is. People probably already do. People are also familiar with the last time that I'm pretty sure Mizzou, or last time the A&M won on the road was against that 2021 Mizzou team, and I'm pretty sure Connor Bazelak was the quarterback of that Mizzou team, and he's at the quarterback at Bowling Green.
Yeah. Yep.
So how the crazy. Everything's just linear. Everything's circular.
It's weird. It's weird. All right, man. Any closing thoughts? I think we covered everything. Anything you need to get off your chest, or are you good?
Nah, I'm good. I'm sure there's other callers are waiting to get in there. So thank you, boss, for letting me get on my soapbox there.
Yeah. You had to give it to South Florida there. They deserved it. All right, Matt. Thanks for calling in, man. We'll talk soon.
All right. See you later, man.
Later. All right, that was a great call from Matthew Dawson of Redshirt Sophomore Podcast and Texags. You've seen him before. You know who he is. The man, the myth, the legend. But we have another legend waiting in the chat. Last call of the night. Jeb, you're on with Drew. You got some stuff you want to get off your chest, Jeb? What's going on with you, man?
Yeah, man. I'm like happy, but yet mad at the same time with the Notre Dame loss, man.
Right?
I hate Notre Dame. I'm kind of happy they lost, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, I feel like shit, man. I feel like now it makes the loss feel more painful now.
It does, man. That was like the shining light, right? Like, okay, we probably just lost to a playoff team.
We were
everything
so
to play
high on
for.
Notre Dame. Everybody was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a playoff team. This is elite."
I know.
And I was even kind of thinking after the game in my thoughts, I was like, maybe Notre Dame's offense just isn't that good.
Yeah.
I don't think like their receivers were really anything special. Riley Leonard was just kind of moving the ball. He was gritty. They had a couple good big runs that kind of won them the game, but that was kind of it.
Yeah, I know.
So I was like, maybe we're overhyping them just a little bit.
But in turn, does that mean our defense is overhyped?
We won't really know. I mean, until we play Florida. I think Florida has better weapons. They have a good running back, a couple good receivers. I don't know how good their offensive line is, though.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see how they follow up too. Just like I want to see how we follow up versus Florida. I'm curious. I'm gonna follow Notre Dame now. Like, what the hell's going on in South Bend right now? Like, is there an offense there? I mean, I heard some Notre Dame insiders talking about they might have to have the conversation about, is Riley Leonard our best option, because they have some good quarterbacks behind him.
They might be still hung up. They might be still hung over from the win, man. I think that's what it is.
And it's happened there before, man. In Ohio, when they lost to Ohio State in a pretty good battle, first year he was there, Freeman was there. They had the hangover loss to
they lost to Marshall.
Yeah.
They had that Alabama quarterback, right? That Asian guy.
Yeah.
What's his name? Buckner. He was terrible.
Yeah, he's still there. He's like a ball boy or like some kind of practice coach or something.
I think he's playing lacrosse now.
Yeah.
He kind of grew up close to me, so.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
Len La Jolla, yeah, kind of fun story, but I don't know him, but yeah, man. Dude, last weekend it was nice. That was my first time staying in probably in a while. Dude,
nice.
It felt amazing to be being a fat piece of shit. Just that.
That was me, dude. I was a big piece of shit on that Saturday. And it was glorious.
And dude, you know what I find funny? I mean, I know coaches have to say this, but like, every coach is like, you got to respect your opponent. You know darn well they did not respect McNeese State that week. They literally sat they treated that game like a scrimmage. They sat every player that had maybe like a broken toenail, and then they played all their backups in. Dude, you can't fucking tell me that they respect their opponent.
Jeb, that was
Come
the
on.
respectful part because they leave him out there. McNeese is gonna leave with some boo-boos, man. I mean, come
you're
on
right.
now.
You gotta dump out your roster, but dude, that's a clear indication right there. Like they don't respect this team.
Yeah, they did what they had to do. I mean, I'm glad that the defensive player, like our main defensive guys, they played like under 15 snaps, dude. Under
That's good.
15.
I mean, yeah, you gotta rest them up. It's a good strategy. You gotta rest them up, for the big game. I completely understand that. Give your backups some more experience and more reps. And the running game looks good. The offensive line looks light and day, way better than last year.
It's crazy. It's so nice.
Dude, the passing game still makes me fucking nervous, man.
Me too.
It just does, dude. Like, okay, I'm gonna say a hot take here. I think from right now, and just because I say this doesn't mean he's a bad player.
I know who you're going
I think
for.
Connor's a little overrated right now.
Oh, that's fine.
When I see him play, like, dude, when I watched the Nebraska quarterback play that night against Colorado, the way he threw the ball, man, it was so smooth. Connor, I think because we haven't seen that much of him, so I'm not ready to write him off. Just because I say he's overrated doesn't mean he's a bad player. I still think he's a great player. I just don't think he's like the first quarterback off the draft board like they were saying at the beginning of the year. But when I see him throw the ball, he's just very hesitant. And two, when he throws the long ball, it just looks like he's chunking it, man. I don't think he has that arm. I think he has a good arm in like terms of like, short balls and stuff. But long balls, man, I just don't like it.
I've never thought he's had a hammer arm. And be careful,
No.
Jeb. Be careful with your comparisons, sir. You know what they say? Comparison is the thief of joy, Jeb.
I hope I'm wrong.
I'm just kidding.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Dude,
no. You're right, though. He's overrated because he became overrated after you heard all that preseason talk, top quarterback, and then he had the performance versus Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I mean, that made him overrated. But being overrated doesn't mean you can't get better.
Yeah. Being overrated doesn't mean like you're a bad player. It just means like you're not as good as like the hype is. I mean, if you go back to 22, okay, LSU, you played well. It was kind of like the what's that running back's name we had?
A-Chain.
It was kind of his show, A-Chain show. Ole Miss, he had great stats, but we had 2 touchdowns in that game, so not a lot of points. You look back, okay, played against scrubs. Miami game, he looked really good. That's when I was like, this guy looks really good.
Yeah.
Like he's poised, he's dealing with the blitz, he's like a gamer. And then after that, he lays an egg in the Notre Dame game, and it's just like, I'm not ready to write him off yet. Obviously, I'm just like, dude, is this guy overrated? I don't know, because the McNeese, and I don't know if it's between him or the receivers, but there's times where I watched the McNeese State game where he had all day to throw, and he just couldn't find anybody open. And I'm like, dude, this is against McNeese State. You guys should be wide open every time.
Yeah, he's working through stuff, man, and those plays, there were 3 of those, and he only had 39 snaps.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it feels like a lot, but yeah, he got tunnel vision on those plays. I went back and watched them all, and he's kind of focused on what Theo was saying, some of those money throws to he likes that fade to Noah. He was getting some tunnel vision on those plays, and he needs to work through that.
What do you think?
We need to see it versus Florida. Take that next step.
If you think he struggles against Florida, do you think they pull him?
What's the level of struggle?
I'm thinking they're just incompetent on throwing the ball at all.
Yeah, sure. I think there's a chance, but I don't think that happens. I don't think we're going to be in that scenario. I think he's going to be competent. I don't think it's going to be that level of a disaster. I think maybe he'll leave more to be desired, but I don't think he's going to play so bad they have to bench him. And that would have to be pretty bad because I just think so basically you're saying, I understand what you're saying. What is he really? But I think what people see is in a very limited sample size in some pretty bad offenses, because those offenses weren't the best either. They didn't have, I mean, he had really good mechanics and showed really, really good promise for a guy his age and his level of experience with a bad offensive line. So the thought was that would scale up with the new offensive coordinator, new outlook, and hopefully improved offensive line play. And he hasn't shown it yet. So that stuff is still in him. I mean, that stuff has still happened, But did he lose something in that layover, or is it a bad?
Oh yeah,
I
the
mean,
one positive thing I'll say about him is like when he ran the ball a few times, he looked really good. He looked faster.
yeah,
He was making some moves. I know it was against McNeese State, but he looked better running the football than he did versus Notre Dame, clearly. But
yeah.
I mean, I'm still high on him. Like I still want him to do well. Obviously, I want him to win. I hope he plays well.
Yeah.
I think if you whoop Florida and Bowling Green back to back, you're gonna feel really good.
Oh yeah, it'll change the way we feel about the year, and I think we'll kind of be on schedule because I kind of felt like you were going to go into Missouri with a loss. That's what I had been saying, and if you're able to accomplish that, I think you're on track. But obviously, we saw some bad shit from Notre Dame game, and then we saw some bad shit from Notre Dame. So we're feeling kind of antsy. So we want to get some answers, and that's what this Florida game's all about.
Yeah,
so
I really do hope they open up the playbook. I know, like
they're going to.
I know against McNeese State they wanted to play vanilla. They didn't want to show anything, which is I understand that. But sometimes I'm like, I wish they would have had a little bit more fun out there with the playbook, versus like with some of the backups, kind of be a little creative. I get it.
Yeah.
Because those games, man, they're not stressful at all, but they're just so boring to watch.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I hate the FCS games, man. I hate them so much. I get why you schedule them. It's to reduce wear and tear in an SEC schedule, but I despise them.
Yeah,
but
you don't have to play a strong team, but at least someone who's gonna like at least be a like North Texas or somebody different.
Right.
Someone who's like at least a little bit competitive. Louisiana Tech. It don't have to be like an extremely hard school, but I hate when we play FCS teams like Sam Houston State. They are D1 now, but Prairie View A&M. I
hate those AC.
We can relax because we know it's going to be a W, but it's like you can't get hyped because it's such a boring game to watch. It's like a scrimmage.
Yeah, exactly.
The only fun thing I like about him is that we get to watch the backups play.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I like about it.
Yeah. I mean, the rest is good, but whatever. Here's a good thing kind of about how the schedule goes down. If you're able to find success and win, though, you kind of have this break before SEC play, and then you get both of your bye weeks in the second half of the year when injuries start piling up. So as far as like a rest standpoint, kind of have a nice favorable like kind of rest throughout the year given this game.
Does college get two now?
This year only, just this year, because it's just the way the calendar shook out. It's like it happened to fall to where the time lines up to where there's an extra week of schedule. I was going to say,
I thought we usually just get one.
Yeah, it's two this week. It's two this week, and this game we just had where you got to rest guys.
When's our first bye?
The weekend after Missouri, October 12th.
That's still a while away.
Yeah, which is nice because you don't have injuries early in the year, so you get to rest guys down the road. It's nice to get two late buys. I mean, especially for playoff teams, and we're probably not that, but who knows? Like, if you want the best like bye week schedule, we have it. It's two late buys. So
buys always make me nervous too because I know you want to rest your players, but
lose
I feel
your
like
rhythm.
Teams are always really rusty when they come out the gate. After a bye, they better not sleep on Bowling Green, man.
I don't think they will. You know, Elko coached there, right?
Yeah, that's right. Dude, even watching them as a kid, they've always been decent.
Yeah.
They're pretty similar to App State. If we lose to them, dude, you got to delete your whole channel.
I'll delete my channel if we lose to them. I'll delete it 100%.
I'm nervous. It's on the SC Alternative channel. I don't have that channel. Do you?
I have websites that I go to that are created by pirates.
I mean, if you really want to be cheap, you can go on YouTube and someone's airing it live. I'll probably have to watch. That's usually what I do for like the FCS games.
Just FYI, when I do these live streams on my channel, I post those links in the description. So if anybody needs ways to watch games,
do you?
I got you.
Yeah, I wish that game was maybe on a better channel.
Which one is this?
It's on the SEC Alternative channel, not
Which
the
game?
SEC Network. The Bowling Green game.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to watch that. I'm gonna have to watch that on YouTube.
Yeah, we'll find a way. We'll have to find a way too, because I don't think I have anything right now.
Yeah, I have YouTube TV. I don't know if you can order that. I tried looking for it. I don't think you can add that channel.
Well, here's the problem I have right now. DirecTV has not reached a contract agreement with ESPN.
Oh, dude, I got rid of that a long time ago.
So I have nothing. I have no ESPN unless it's on ESPN Plus, which I pay for.
Man,
so.
DirecTV is such a ripoff now.
I want YouTube TV so bad, but maybe we'll switch.
Dude, they kept charging me twice every time.
Go get your money back.
I did. I called them every time, and like every time I called them, I was like, "Why are y'all charging me twice?" And
those assholes.
Yeah, every single time, and so I got rid of it. We had it for years. I mean, since I was like in high school.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've grown up with. But yeah, I'm switching YouTube TV before too long. But last thing, Jeb, I agree with Kai right here. I talked about it earlier. We don't need Connor to like flashy, like
I
huge
don't
game
know.
versus
Do we?
Florida. I don't think we do. Not this game. Versus Missouri, we're going to need it to keep up with them, I think.
I don't know. We might be sleeping on Florida, dude. We might need him to play a hell of a game.
I think we need to have a good running game, and Connor just needs to play clean and
Because
just
what,
play
what
within
if he plays
himself.
average? What if he plays average and we lose?
Then we better. I mean, then we didn't have a good running game because I think our running game is good enough to help us in the Florida
yeah,
game.
I think we're gonna have to lean on the running game.
I just need to see the next progression from Connor. That's what I want. I don't need perfect Connor.
I'm still laughing at the TJ Shanahan story.
Dude, we've all been there.
I mean, did you have a fake in college?
Nah.
I didn't have one.
I didn't have one. I had methods, but I didn't have a fake. All my friends had a fake, though. All my friends had a fake.
Yeah.
It's like
They
that's
were
like
too-
half
they were
of
too
half of the college kids that are not of age to drink have one.
Oh yeah, they were too pricey for me. They were like $100. They ain't gonna happen. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he'll get kicked off the team, right? I think
No,
he'll
he's
get, like, a
suspended.
suspension.
Elko said he's suspended. I don't know if that means he doesn't play. It could just mean he's being punished or limited in some capacity. They're probably going to handle that internally. I don't even know if he'll miss a game. He might miss a game, but he's not a starter. Hopefully, you don't have an injury to the O-line like
Do
when
you
he's
think?
suspended.
Do you think Barber and Donovan Green play?
Not this week. Nah. I think Barber will be Arkansas when he's playing like in-game action. Maybe the week before, maybe Bowling Green he'll play because he's really ahead of schedule. So maybe Bowling Green.
Did you go back and watch the Arkansas game? I didn't really get a chance to watch too much of it because I was obviously watching your stream and then watching the game. And
I didn't go back, but I kept an eye on it. They just screwed themselves, man. They were the
yeah,
better
they were
team.
about to blow 'em
They were the
out.
better team. They outgained them. They were dominant. They hold the time of possession. They just, fumbled, dropped a punt, threw an interception, bad interception. They missed a field goal. They just kept. It's like it was literally how our games with them go, but versus Oklahoma State.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go back and look at that. 'Cause I
They
know
they,
have
they
that-
dominated the game. They just kept. They just
Yeah,
shot
when I
themselves in the
When I
foot.
was looking through it, they were up like 28-13. I thought, okay, maybe they might run away with this, but
Yeah,
they're not as bad as I thought they were going to be this year. They might be pretty interesting. So,
but they're not stellar. Yeah, they're a
not
little bit
stellar.
better.
Their quarterback to me is just kind of okay. He's not really a guy that
Yeah,
can take you to the promised
but
land.
Bobby
He's just-
P's made them better for sure.
Yeah.
They have
have a
some
good
good
running
weapons. They have good running. Yeah, DeQuinton Jackson out of Utah. They have a really good receiver. Not really good, but a serviceable receiver stable if they're healthy.
Oh yeah, they have those three guys back.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Good tight end.
I didn't know we gave up 200 yards. McNeese did. I didn't even look at the stats.
We give up 180 something rushing
It
yards.
didn't even look like it though.
It was because it was all versus when we had the freshmen in there. They had that long drive, and that was like 90 yards
yeah,
right
that
there.
Really long drive where they couldn't get the field on third down. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
had
I think they ran it the whole time.
Yeah,
Man, I mean, we called it, dude. We said the run defense might take a hit this year.
we talked about it all off season.
Yeah.
I don't think it's this bad as these two games though, but we'll see. It could be. It could be.
They have a good
Florida
running
game's
back.
gonna tell us. Yeah,
Who did they play? Who did they play last week?
Florida.
Yeah.
Samford, and they were shaky out the gates. Then DJ Lagway kind of settled into the game in the second half
Did
and
you
hit
hear
some
about
guys.
DJ Lagway? There were rumors I remember reading it during the Notre Dame game that if their coach got fired, that he would transfer to A&M. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I'll take him, but I really like our quarterback room if we can hold
that's
on
what
to
I'm saying.
Longstreet.
I really like him, but it's like I really like Marcel Reed. From what I've seen from him, I think that obviously he doesn't have the experience yet, but I like what I see from him. He's super athletic.
Yeah.
He can zip. I think he has a better arm than Connor. He can zip it,
Maybe.
but obviously Connor has the more experience. But
Let's
I
see
mean,
with
he beat out
Connor, man.
Jalen
This is the weekend. Yeah, he did beat out Jalen Henderson. I think it's well deserved. I think he has the best upside in that room outside of Connor, but I still think Connor's the ceiling to the year. Let's see.
yeah, I mean, every game it's going to matter to him. I think we have enough around the team to be really good defensively and weapons on offense. Maybe not be the best, but we're good enough. It's all going to be depending on him. If he has a
Yeah.
lousy game, we're not going to win.
Yeah.
It's really simple as that. That's why this game.
He can't play bad.
I'm excited, but I'm also very nervous. I'm just like, if we go 1-2, I don't know what the season's going to look like. You're looking at probably a 7-5 season.
For sure. And yeah, it's just crazy because after this weekend, we're gonna feel one way or another, man.
Dude,
They're
I
on the
can't
opposite end of the
I can't
spectrum.
take it anymore, man. I can't
know.
take it, dude. The Notre Dame game took my soul, man.
I like Elko, man. I trust him to get it right. I don't think they'll lay an egg, but is it enough? We'll find out. All right, Jeb. I'm gonna get out of here for the night, man. Thanks for the
Yeah, I gotta
call.
go to bed.
And then
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me.
we'll do it again Thursday if you want to get a score prediction in.
Sounds perfect.
All right, man. Later.
Later.
All right, guys, we're going to call that a show. Let's catch up on the chat real quick. Ronnie Barker, love the channel from Tokyo, checking in on lunch break. Thanks for stopping by, Ronnie. Always appreciate you checking in from Tokyo, our Tokyo Aggie. Arkansas offense under Bobby Petrino shocked me. Why couldn't Bro called plays? Why couldn't Bro call plays like that with us? Handcuffs. And they were Jimbo Fisher. He's going to have to score more against Arkansas. Probably. Let's see what the defense looks like versus Florida, though. All right, guys. Thanks for stopping by tonight. Fun night. Good calls. Good chat. Y'all are amazing. Y'all are legends. If we can get the likes up to 40 before we get out of here. If you get subscribed, if you haven't subscribed, I appreciate all you guys. Yeah, man. More anxiety this week. I had a bunch of anxiety versus Notre Dame. It's happening again this week. It's all about this game. But I'll talk to you guys. We'll go way deep into Florida. Pause. Whenever the live show on Thursday, it's time. That's all Florida. I'll drop a Florida prediction video in the next couple of days. Tomorrow it'll come out, and we'll see what happens, man. So I'll see you guys Thursday. Have a good night. Thanks. Gig 'em.